Let's. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Roll call.
Okay. George Andrews,
Present.
Rebecca Bear,
Present.
Ann Cotrillo.
Here.
Mike Cotrillo,
Here.
Jason Gulstern,
Present.
Keith Carcutt,
Present.
Debbie Kulik,
Present.
Wayne Broner,
Here.
Richard Schleman,
Present.
and I'm present.
I'd like to welcome all of our guests that are here this evening and all of those that are online. If you're here, we'd ask that if you haven't, please sign in outside, just so we have a record of who attended this evening. Okay. An executive session was held this evening for the discussion of personnel litigation and negotiations, and on Saturday, February 22nd. Have a motion to adopt this agenda for February 24th, 2025, as submitted with the Board of Education reserving the right to add to the agenda and take further action on any items raised in executive session where immediate action on such items is considered to be in the best interest of the district.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, approval of minutes. Motion to approve the minutes of the January 27, 2025 board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
Okay, one abstention. Okay, we're going to go a little out of order on the next items. We're going to start with our students. So Alyssa, representing High School North, will begin.
Good evening, school board, faculty, and guests. To reintroduce myself, my name is Alyssa Dina, and I'm a senior at East Stroudsburg North, and I'm honored to be this year's student representative. So we're just going to get right into it with some academics. So if you recall, a senior named Tayo Malessa was named a National Merit Scholarship semifinalist, and this month he has advanced to the finalist stage. Each year, about 1.6 million students from over 25,000 schools enter this prestigious program, and he was chosen as one of 15,000 finalists. And so he will find out in March if he has the best, I'm so sorry. We wish him best of luck, as the Merit Scholarship recipients are to be announced in March. And on February 21st, a group of North students attended the ESU Women in STEM Day. They engaged in hands-on activities across various STEM fields, ranging from biology, chemistry, physics, math, computer science, and psychology. The students also heard from professors and current STEM students in the panel discussion about careers and opportunities in the fields at ESU. And to celebrate Black History Month, Mr. Massa's multicultural perspectives and civics classes are engaging in Black History Month activities. They're exploring African-American leadership and cultural impacts while utilizing the Smithsonian's A Place for All People poster display. And if you can see those on the screen, those are just one of the few posters displayed on our school. It's like hallways of just posters, and they're really beautiful. And these posters display, and they celebrate National Museum of Art of African-American History and Cultural in Washington, D.C. Additionally, these students are learning about Carter J. Woodson, the historian who founded Black History Month, and the importance of his work preserving African-American history. And this I'm really excited about because I actually got to watch this class do this project. Mr. Corso's World Civilizations class worked on a Harlem Renaissance project. And if you don't know what the Harlem Renaissance is, basically throughout the 20s and the 30s, there was a revival of African-American music, dance, fashion, art, literature, and it was all in Harlem, New York. And so I have a little collage. The students had put an incredible effort in portraits and summaries of influential figures during this time. And two students, Tatiana Perez and Leonora Williams, even designed their own poster, which will be at the center of this exhibit. And honestly, I just want to talk about this a little because I feel like our district is so blessed and like we're so diverse, either if it's in religion or nationality. And I just want to applaud our history teachers for going above and beyond to teach the important topics, because usually Black history isn't usually taught in the history curriculum. And so I just feel like all history should be taught, and especially in a school diverse as ours. And I just want to give extra credit to Mr. Corso and Mr. Massa for not only teaching Black history, but also giving students the opportunity to have these hands-on experiences. And this is just two examples of the many things our teachers are doing in our school. I wish I had time to talk about them all, but I only have so much time. So yeah, it's just amazing. The students were really lovely. They were really supportive and really nice, and they really cared about this project, which I was really happy about. And to move on to the arts, North was proudly represented at the PMEA District 10 Choir Festival at Twin Valley High School by Joseph Canetti and Valentina Godiva. Both had the opportunity to audition for the PMEA Region 5 Choir, and we are thrilled to announce that Valentina scored high enough to move up. So in March, she'll perform at the regionals and audition for the All-State Choir. And on February 19th, the North Chorale had an incredible opportunity to perform at the annual Moravian University High School Choir Adjudication. The students showcased their talents in front of 3 adjudicators and even had a master class with one of the judges. In addition to performing, they watched and supported other high schools in the area. And to talk about some athletics. So this winter marked our first official season for our winter track team, and our athletes put an incredible effort in setting many personal records throughout the various events. And additionally, we had celebrated senior nights from the girls' basketball, swim, and wrestling. And North does go to districts. We have a lot in February going on. Our Special Olympics won the regional Special Olympics basketball tournament. Senior Andy Bebo earned second place in the district girls wrestling championships. Boys basketball fought in a hard first round in the district playoffs, and the unified bocce team is gearing up for the district's competition in East Stroudsburg South. We are also cheering for our swim team as qualified swimmers are competing in their upcoming district competition. And we're going to end with some extracurriculars. And on February 27th, 10 members of our VEDM, which is a student-led organization based on mental health awareness and suicide prevention, will be attending a VEDM conference in Allentown. And this event will bring together over 400 students from districts across Pennsylvania. And they will be collaborating, sharing experiences, and sharing the impact of mental health advocacy for our students and our community. And with that, I will end my presentation. Thank you all for your attention. I hope you like learning about the amazing things happening in our school as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once again for your enthusiasm. Wow. Let's see South.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you again. I'm back in person this month. So that's great.
We are glad you're feeling better.
Yeah.
Thank
We
you.
were worried.
It's all good. Hop on Zoom. But I'll start going over some of the great things at South. I want to lead with our future educator cohort. I forgot I had the clicker. I was waiting for it to move. Which is a great program that we have going on. And this past month, we had our students get elementary field experiences at Smithfield and ESC, which was great. They got to observe classrooms, have hand-on experiences, and personalized sessions with other students. And we continue to be so proud of this program. And it's really led by Ms. Brotherton and Mr. Cool at the high school level, and was pioneered by Mr. Cromis, Ms. Palmounter. So we're grateful for all of them. And this past week, we had quite a few students compete at Pennsylvania DECA States. So I want to congratulate the following students. Rowan McAllister was elected as the District 7 representative. So he's responsible for our district in the state, and he'll be part of the Team 75 state team. Ava Biscup placed top 4 in the state for public speaking. And we had Harrison IA and Lila Donovan with top test scores in the state. Sydney Smith had a top role play 1 score, and Jameer Grant had a top role play 2 score. So congratulations to all of them. And this past Friday, about 23 of our junior girls attended the United Nations Day of Women and Girls in Science event, which was hosted at ESU. They had different hands-on activities, including but not limited to topics in biology, chemistry, and physics. And there was a panel discussion with current ESU students and instructors, kind of telling them how to be successful with science classes in high school, and discussing various pathways in science for their future. And then we have our Red Cross fundraiser. They sold and delivered candy grams to celebrate Valentine's Day, and to raise money for their club. They will be having a blood drive on March 7th, which they're partnering with NHS for, our National Honor Society. And they wanted to note that one donation can save up to 3 lives. So they're really pushing this community give back in our school. And next, the gift you got from me, the very colorful one, more colorful than the ones I normally give you, our Cavalier Lit and Art magazine. This is great. Mr. Dolph gave me some copies and Miss Comunal to bring to you all. So I can't take credit. I didn't print them out for you. But this was a really great effort. Over 50 students in our school worked on it, from both Miss Comunal's creative writing class and Mr. Dolph's advertising, communication, and design class. There's great work in there. It was New York City themed, I believe, this year. So please, at your leisure, read through, see some of our talent. And next, I want to recognize we had 18 of our 9th grade study strategies students who were recognized at a luncheon. They passed all of their classes, had little to no discipline, and really great attendance. So we really wanted to appreciate their efforts. Moving on, we had a Science Olympiad EPC competition on Friday. I want to congratulate Jalissa Carranza and Ella Duan, who placed second in the forensic event. And they will have another NEPA regional competition coming soon in Penn State Wilkes-Barre. In some other athletics, we had our cheer team place 5th in the co-ed division at the PIAA state competition. So that was very exciting. Our unified bocce purple team is advancing to their playoffs tomorrow. Very exciting. And our Cavalier rifle team placed 11th in the state of Pennsylvania. Specifically, James Fall and Brandon Benzoni also competed at the state individual rifle tournament and were very successful. And Taylor Kofer Walcott qualified for the state competition in winter indoor track and field. So congratulations to all of those athletes. And just a little guidance update. We're kind of starting that scheduling period at South, so it's a very fun time. Our new senior scholarship newsletter has been updated and includes 62 scholarship opportunities. And I'm actually going to call out my own error because I wrote this last night. It was 62 last night, but there's 70 now in the day. So it continues to grow exponentially. So that's really great. It's a great resource. And our counselors are going to JTL tomorrow, February 25th, to begin scheduling for the 8th graders. And we have our freshman experience day at South on February 26th. We bring the 8th graders, they hear from a panel of freshmen, go to an activity and sport fair in the cafeteria, and they get guided tours of the building. So that's a really great event. And we're excited to see all of them. And I have a lot of music events to finish up my presentation. For County Chorus, 15 South Choir students performed alongside North, Stroudsburg, and Notre Dame in the Monroe and Pike County Chorus. They learned the music in advance with Mrs. Miola and practiced all day on January 31st under the direction of Allison Langen and presented a concert that evening, which was really great. Our district band, we also had 6 students qualify and attend. So congratulations to Sydney Ort, Gianna De La Cruz, Sayori Galperin, Teresa Hopkins, Nolan Rice, and Maya McDonald. And our district chorus, we had one student, Abby Silva, who attended the festival this year at Twin Lakes High School. Congratulations, Abby. And this was a really fun trip to hear about. Our band traveled to Disney not too long ago. They experienced a 2.5 workshop. It was a sound workshop with a Disney musician. They kind of learned about the careers you can take as a professional musician, and they experienced playing in a recording studio sessions. They had the headphones, the click tracks, the whole 9 yards there. So that was really fun for them. And I just want to shout out some upcoming events in our music department. We have a department concert on March 5th, which is at 7 p.m. And Laura Estes is a composer who is coming to guest conduct. And we have 3 South students who will be participating in Region Band, which has an upcoming concert. So thank you all. That's all I have this month.
Hey, thank you, Carl. Anthony, do we have Layla from MCTI on?
And while we're waiting for that, we just want to thank Mr. Zoll, because if Mr. Zoll did not drive the U-Haul truck to Orlando, the band would not have had their. Oh. And he braved the snow and the rain.
That's where you got the tan from.
Thank you, Mr. Zoll.
Okay, we're just checking to see if our MCTI person, she's usually online, is online with us.
Hello.
Hi, Naomi, you ready?
Hi, I'm sorry I can't have my camera on. I just came out of work, so sorry about that.
We hear you fine, so go ahead.
So my report's not gonna be too long. So my name is Nayla Joseph. I am a senior at MCTI in the Business and Hospitality program, and here's my report. So on Friday, January 31st, FFA held MCTI semi-formal. So this was kind of like a Valentine's Day dance that MCTI hosts. This is their second year doing it. Tickets were sold in advance and over 150 students attended, which was really great and overall a great success. On Wednesday, February 19th on Wednesday, February 19th to Friday, the 22nd, MCTI DECA students competed in the Pennsylvania DECA states, and the following students placed and or received awards. I received state champion for prepared speech.
Hey, congratulations.
Matthew Mascaro, he competed in retail merchandising, and he's from North, and he received the best chapter role play B. Janaya Tate competed in marketing management, team decision making, and Savannah Kapflafka did accounting series. She's also from North, and they tied for top chapter exam scores. And then finally, February was career and technical education month, and MCTI has done several activities for the students and staff. I know this week is going to be our spirit week, and we have a bunch of things planned for that. And this concludes my report.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Get some rest after work. Thank you to all three of our students for always reminding us why we're here, and we appreciate the reports every month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have some guests this evening for presentations. So we're going to start with MCTI, and I believe Dennis Berger will be presenting for us.
We're changing up the agenda a little, that way to get you gentlemen out of here as quickly as possible. So we're letting. Well, I figured Dennis just had somebody from MCTI speak, so he gets to go.
So Chris had to suffer through our presentation last week, and
So he can do it for you and you can leave.
he could,
Okay,
he absolutely
all
could.
right.
He's at Pocono Mountain with us next week.
There you go.
I promise, Mr. Karka told me 5 minutes. I don't think I'm gonna do 5 minutes, but I will go as quickly as I possibly can. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you guys. So we have a lot of good news. Our addition is going well, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but everything that we've done in MCTI is because of you guys. Because of your colleagues at the other districts. We've accomplished a lot in the last few years. And one thing that I'm going to start at the beginning, because I forgot to say this in the last budget presentations, everything we've done, we're still debt free. So we still have no debt payments, no bond service, which is excellent. So I will get started. And I don't know if this is going to work with a PDF, but that's fine. Not a big deal. I don't need that. So first thing I want to get into is the how we're funded. So I know you guys have heard me say this for those of you who've been on the board long enough, but it is a little bit different than what some school board members are used to. So we're funded by what's known as a 4-year rolling average of ADMs. That is a very fancy way of saying enrollment. One thing I'm going to say, and kudos to you guys and kudos to your administration, your counselors at your North and South high schools. East Stroudsburg School District has had the largest enrollment increase in the last 5 years of any school in the county. So that is great news as far as I'm concerned, and I'm hoping that you guys agree with. So if you look up there, just for you guys for East Stroudsburg, you're about 24.85% of our operating budget. So when we look at our budget, the general operating budget, that is the percentage that you guys are responsible for. So it's going up. So you can see you have a little green arrow next to it because of your enrollment increase. So that is a good thing. I'm going to quickly talk about enrollment overall, not specifically to East Stroudsburg, just in general. MCTI, as you guys know, I think I've said this now for 5 years in a row. As you can see, our enrollment just keeps going up and increasing tremendously. We are at capacity. We're trying to find creative ways to get more and more kids in. But this snapshot in time, which is October 1, we are just under 1,200 students. So we are a pretty large career and tech center. This is great news. I will tell you, we are in the middle of our enrollment right now. Good news for East Stroudsburg again. Both your South and North had a great turnout. The challenging part that we're running into is last year we had over 500 kids on our wait list. at the start of this school year. By the time we ended our enrollment period, which is the end of the first marketing period, we ended up with about 340 students who were not placed. Which I will tell you is a difficult conversation with parents and counselors and administrators who are fighting for their kids. We're seeing the same thing this year. We're already up to a look today about 495 students on the wait list. So it is a challenge. It is not an easy process. So the demand is there. And if you actually scroll down to the next slide, and I always share this, I think this gives you better perspective of how well enrollment is. So if you look at all the 10th through 12th graders in Monroe County, that's the percentage who attends MCTI. So a little over 17% of all 10th through 12th graders in Monroe County attend us. Just to give you a little perspective, state average is between 10 and 12%. So we are far above state average, and we just continue to grow. So as you guys know, Monroe County as a whole, the enrollment dipped a little bit in the last decade, but more and more kids are coming to our school. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're trying to fix that. We are opening up a couple new programs and trying to squeeze as many kids in as we can, but it's still a challenge. And if you go to the next down one more slide, this just gives you a perspective of the school district. So you can see your guys blue and purple. I do want to put a little asterisk next to it. It looks lower than the other schools, but you guys don't offer diversified occupations here through us. So that number you have to keep in mind, that's built into the other schools. So your enrollment is as strong as ever, which is again an awesome thing. So what are we doing about enrollment? I'll talk about this now rather than further capital projects. One of the reasons for an increase that you'll see is we're going to be adding a second automotive technology program. So automotive technology is one of the programs that we historically see 40 kids on a wait list. Also, when we look at a program, we have to make sure that there's jobs out there. I mean, there's plenty of jobs out there for automotive mechanics. So next year, we're hoping to hire a second auto tech teacher. So we can bring our enrollment up to 75 students. Most of our programs are around 50. Ideally, it would be 100. We just don't have enough space. And the next program that I'm excited to talk about, and won't start next year, it'll start the following year, is our current multi-purpose room. And this is for Mrs. Kulik, who I know will be excited, is a first responder program. So students will leave MCTI with EMT certification, firefighting, and also they're going to be introduced to law enforcement, which we have criminal justice, but our criminal justice program is so popular, this will help with some overflow. But EMT is a needed certification out there. Firefighting, I know this area is volunteer. Unfortunately, I will probably tell you paid firefighters are coming eventually, because getting volunteer firefighters is becoming challenging. So that will start not next school year, the following school year. Next year, we'll be renovating our current multi-purpose room. Is where that program will go. So Mrs. Kulik, it's hopefully you're excited.
You're on the right track.
All right, good. All right, budget approved. Good. Now to the operating budget. So not the exciting part. So our increase is about 3.92%. This is overall. This isn't specific to East Stroudsburg. It's about $400,000 to the dollar. And there's really two reasons for it. And I'll never forget, I've been to many board meetings and I've never seen such an exciting board meeting as last year when I was here, when you guys were approving your teacher contract. I thought they were here for me. They weren't.
No, they were really here for.
Oh, thank you. So I will tell you, for us, and if you guys don't know this, it's important that you do. Our teachers are paid on a weighted average of the 470 district. So whenever a district increases teacher pay, that increases our teachers' pay. And I will tell you, for me, that is a good thing, because finding career and tech teachers is about as hard as you can get, because you're pulling them out of a trade where they're doing very well and coming in with no education and trying to figure out how to teach and generally taking pay cuts. So that increase helps us recruit teachers. So with that said, that was a good thing for us. However, when we presented the budget last year, our budget was technically already completed. So it worked out, but what happened was you'll see the increase in our teacher salary because of the contract did increase our budget. So it's really 2 years in one, just because of the timing of it. So that was a big portion of our expenditure. We also have to be very conservative. There is another district who is currently negotiating right now. We have to be very conservative with their contract, because once our contract is approved, it's done. I don't want to have to come back to you guys and say, hey, we need more money. So Joel, when he puts it together, he has to be very conservative with that. So that's pretty much why the percentage, the increase is there. Also, the addition, the 17,000 square foot addition that will be done in June is going to take some staffing, custodial and maintenance staffing, and as I alluded to, we'll be hiring a second auto tech teacher. So that's really where the increases come from. Savings, we have a couple of retirements that we're anticipating. We had some shuffling around in our special ed services, but ultimately, that's the reason for the cost increase. So where you guys fall. Now I'm gonna get into really good news, I hope, and I hope I explain this as best I can. Ultimately, East Stroudsburg is going to get money back. And what I mean by that is this is your current share of the operating budget. So you'll see it's 3.84% increase, and an 84,000, almost $85,000 increase for East Stroudsburg. However, I'm going to talk a little bit about capital, or not capital, vocational subsidy. I'll try to explain as best I can. Speaking of capital, you'll see that green area, the green boxes. There is no money that we're asking for capital. You guys and all of the districts have supported us tremendously, and our capital reserve is as healthy as it's ever been, which I'll show you in a second. But what I'm trying to talk, what I'll show you guys is the vocational subsidy. If you go to the next slide, so the state, a couple weeks ago, when Governor Shapiro presented his budget, and he talks about career and tech ed, most of that money goes to something called vocational subsidy. And how it works is we receive money from Harrisburg. It comes directly to MCTI. We are a little unique in the sense that we take that money and we disperse it back to the school districts. We're not the only school who does that, but most tend to keep it and build it into their budget. The good news is vocational subsidy in the last 5 years or so has gone up tremendously. So the state has put more and more money into career and tech ed. What that means for you guys is more money is coming back. So just like subsidy you guys get and everything else, this is a revenue line that I know Peter probably puts into your budget that we get and we'll send back to you. So what you're going to see, if you take that expense that I showed you for East Stroudsburg to 84,000, realistically with the vocational subsidy increasing, your expense is actually going down by about $34,000. So we're growing student-wise. You guys are sending more kids. We're expanding, and the net cost for you has gone down $34,000. To take that step further, you can see a graph on the next slide is overall in the last 5 years, the operating budget at MCTI, if you take vocational subsidy into it, it's actually gone down about $200,000 from Monroe County. Now, that is a win. That's something that every school district should be proud of. If you're going to ask, why aren't we budgeting that? Well, as you guys know, we'll take the victory from Harrisburg, but prior to that, it was pretty much flat. So Joel and I, we can't build a budget not knowing what that increase is going to be every year. So we just take it as a win. All right. So continue to grow and hopefully keep getting that money back to us. And I'm going to conclude with capital. Again, in September, we're going to have our grand opening for the new addition, which all of you will be invited to. It's 17,000 square feet. It is scheduled to be complete in June. It is on schedule. They're actually there today to finish up the roof, glass is in, and we'll start doing the interior work. So that has gone very well. And at the same time, our own students are now converting our old adult ed office into the new business and hospitality program. And the business and hospitality program will be turned into audit tech. And the nice thing is our kids are doing it. So I'll show our JOC members pictures of that. They'll actually see it so they can see what our kids have done and help us out to convert these needs. And something that is very important, and Mr. Brooks sitting right there is a big part of it, the way he's been investing our money. Our capital reserve, for those of you who've been around since I've been director, we had nothing in capital. We had no funding mechanism. We had no money for capital outside of asking the school district. So now we are as healthy as ever. After the addition is completed, so after addition is completed and paid for, I already touched on how we are debt free, but we will also have a remainder of about $2.8 million in our capital reserve, which for a school for our size, we can start looking at some other things. We are going to be hooking up to public sewer. We currently have a private sewer treatment plant, which is a liability. Last meeting, our JOC talked about our electrical switch gear that needs to be upgraded. And I'm not going to take too much time talking about it, but yes, the JOC will be hearing about another addition possibly to start looking at different enrollments and the demands that we're seeing. So overall, we are in about as good a shape as we can capital wise, and just overall, thanks to you guys and your school district personnel for helping us out. And hopefully continue to grow at MCTI. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. Sorry, Keith, that wasn't 5 minutes, but I tried my best.
Any questions from any board member? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. We appreciate it. We are so blessed to have such a great program for our kids. So thank you so much. And thank you for presenting to us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you. Joel, thank you.
And from one great program to another, we'd like to welcome Dr. Chris Wolfel from IU20 to do our next presentation.
Good evening. How's everyone tonight?
Yeah,
They're fiery, Dr. Wolfel.
They are
Careful,
fiery. Yeah.
careful.
Good. That's good. All right. So I'm not sure you can scroll and follow along with me. And I think you have the handouts right in front of you too, so you can follow along with me there. So just that first slide just talks about our mission, which is to have positive relationships, be responsive, and results. Do you have the handouts?
yes.
Okay. And you have a booklet too. You have a booklet?
I have this, that's fine. I'll just share.
You want one?
Or do you want this one?
I have this, or you got this one? Oh, he's got it.
They were all in stack.
Sure, I'll take care. I gave them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, got it. Thank you. There you go.
I brought extra copies. You need copies.
There were 4 documents in the stack.
Special education, we're always prepared.
Sorry.
Thank
You have one receipt. Thank you. I'm sorry.
You're very welcome, not a problem. All right, so as I said, it's about relationships, responsiveness. We were responsive right there. We had a handout for you. And positive results. On the next slide, just talks a little bit about how big we are as an intermediate unit. And you see there $290 million in budgets and the number of students that we serve on an annual basis. And based on data that I received from other executive directors this past year, we provide more services to students than any other IU in the Commonwealth. So that's pretty good news, at least for what we do here in this region. As far as the operating budget, this is just one of 54 budgets, and it only comprises of 1.5% of the revenue that comes into the IU, but it supports the base operations of the IU. So it supports the executive director's office, the human resources office, curriculum, professional learning, and then educational technology. It is prepared in collaboration with our superintendents and our IU20 board, and it's the only budget that requires your approval as a school district. All of the other supports and services and costs that you incur, those are through separate contracts, through services that you request on behalf of the IU20. On the next slide, you'll see that increase of the general operating budget is a 4.1% increase, which takes that to about $4,431,000. But the good news is there's no increase back to the school districts this year. We were able to hold this budget at a 0% increase coming back from the districts. You can see their cost drivers, very similar to any school district, any school entity, salaries, medical benefits, some PSERS increase, and a little bit of increase in Social Security. You might ask, well, how do you balance a budget with a 0% in revenue coming in? We're getting some revenue based on some premium share, as well as interest rates have been really good. So John Walsh, our CFO back at the IU, has done a nice job with investments. That's bringing in some extra revenue that we can use to offset this budget. And then we continue to receive increase in funds from the state through what's called statewide system of support. And those are all the initiatives that the Department of Education asks us to run on their behalf. And we continue to get asked to run more and more initiatives from the department. So that's good news as well. You can see there the history of the general operating budget really has been over the 7 years, has been under 1%. You can see there back in 23-24, we did have a 2.5% increase. That was right around when we renegotiated new contracts. Therefore, we need a little bit extra revenue to come in and balance that out. On the next 2 slides is just really looking at the summary of revenue and the summary of expenditures. And it's really kind of broken down just by a little bit more detailed figures there. But you can see that the revenue coming in of the 173,000 covers the increase in those expenditures of 173,000. And then on that last slide, at least for the general operating budget, You can see there the supported withholding revenue that comes in and then receipts of other IU sources. And then East Stroudsburg, the actual contribution of $39,000, which represents a 0% increase. So what you paid for last year, you'd be contributing the same amount this year if you approve this budget. Next steps for us is to get our school district's approval, me to go out to our other school districts and do this presentation. Then this comes back to our IU board for final approval and then goes to the state for their approval. That is a quick fly through of the general operating budget. Any questions on the general operating budget?
Anything from any board member?
Okay, if I can have 5 minutes, then I'd like to brag about our other programs.
Absolutely.
That's okay. All right. This is the best part. So just sharing on that first slide, a little bit about early intervention. Our early intervention program is ages 3 through 5. Our goal is to prepare students to be kindergarten ready. A lot of times our students that are coming to us with early intervention are students with the most severe needs. Therefore, they are still going to be coming back to you, probably special education, but hopefully with less challenges and needs if we're doing our job right. You can see there that we're expected to have 718 students transition across the region into school age from our EI program. So that's a lot of kids that is going to be coming from EI into school age next year. We are really focused on literacy and instructional coaching. That's one thing that we've been really focusing on the last 2 years. We want to make sure we're building up those early milestones for pre-reading skills. Again, reading is so important for our children. So we're really focusing on how we can do better instruction to prepare our students for reading. On the next slide, you'll see as far as what we're doing in special education, and we're really focusing on getting our students ready for transitioning into the future, as well as preparing for that teacher shortage. So in this slide, it talks a little bit about what Dr. Bartek has been doing with East Stroudsburg University, Northampton Community College, through grants and initiatives to help with the shortage of special education teachers. So programs such as the program that we have for our paraeducators that are able to move into a special education certification very quickly and accelerate them through that. This past year, even with the growth of our IU programs, we really didn't have to interview outside too much. Majority of our special ed teachers were paraeducators that worked for us at the IU, got their certification, and now are special ed teachers. So that's fantastic. As well as we have a program for developing future educators that we partner with the high schools. Those students come down to the IU. They get to experience different types of special education jobs, such as a teacher, adaptive phys ed teacher, social worker, speech therapist, occupational therapist, just to get that interest into the field of education. There's no cost to that. That's 100% grant funded. Even the transportation that comes down brings the kids down, no cost. And then some of those students are even working for us in the summer in our extended school year program. So they're getting a hands-on experience and getting paid for that to get that pathway right into an educational program when they go to college. So that's a really exciting program. On the next slide, to talk about transition into the future. So our students with low incidence disabilities, we really want to have these students prepared for competitive employment. So we have our programs such as our program at Kalahari Resort, St. Luke's, Wing Creek Casino. We have now our own cafe at IU20. That's a full service cafe. And it is a legit business operation. We get inspected every year by the Department of Health and what have you. But the kids are running the machines, they're running the register, and we've seen growth in their language acquisition. We've seen growth in their ability to compute, to utilize the machines. Many of those students can probably go out and work at any Starbucks, Wawa, you name it. They can do it based on that opportunity. So we continue to build those type of programs at the IU to get our students ready for post-school. As far as Resolve Behavioral Health, we were the first in the state of Pennsylvania to provide school-based partial hospitalization. Our program has been around for many years, and we hit all 3 tiers. whether that's building your staff capacity through training and professional development, supplementing where you have gaps in your staffing. Maybe it might be truancy interventions, licensed social workers to come in and supplement your program. And then at tier 3, when the students are really struggling, need that help, we have all the programs like our Colonial Academy, therapeutic emotional support, school-based partial hospitalization. On the next slide, you'll see a Colonial Academy continuing again to really focus on experimental learning through jobs. Our building trades and culinary arts program have been doing an exceptional job. And you can see there some of the building trades, the community projects that they're doing. They're actually giving back to the community while also getting hands-on experience. And for those students, that's so key, because many of those students have maybe done something that has been upsetting to the community. So now that they can not only learn, but give back and feel like they're restoring something, builds that self-esteem. And when they transition back to the schools, they're ready to make a positive impact. Our professional learning department, again, focusing on literacy. One of the things that we did is partner with PBS and Lehigh Valley Public Media. I'm on the board there, so I was able to build a lot stronger relationships there. And what we identified is that there are child care centers, daycares, all throughout the region, hundreds of them. And our concern is, what are they teaching those children? What skills do those daycare providers, those early childhood workers have? And what can we do as an IU to be a hub to help build their skills? So what we started this year is offering the opportunity for all of those early child care centers to come to our IU for one place to give them professional coaching, training, opportunities through PBS that then they can take back to their daycare centers to prepare the kids even more than they ever did before. And we're going to keep that moving throughout various engagements throughout every school year. Our first event was very successful, so we know we're going to build upon that moving forward. Some things that some people don't know is that we offer a driver's education program at IU 20. Last year we serviced, or 23-24, we serviced 308 students and provided them driver's education. This year, currently we're at 175. And knowing that the weather is going to get nicer soon, 100% it will be. There's going to be more and more enrollments, so we'll probably exceed the number that we did last year. As far as technology, we continue to try to work on supporting your technology departments with all the cybersecurity. It's just unbelievable, all the bad actors out there trying to shut down and get your information. So our tech director, Dr. Kalinowski, as well as working with your tech director, is always working to try to enhance services. And we're also able to rework our internet provider and services. So we actually were able to reduce the cost with an annual savings of close to $9,000, as well as doubling the bandwidth. So that was good news. With a little bit of work and a little bit of negotiation, we're able to work through that and get better internet at a lower cost. And then last but not least, again, some people just don't know that we actually have a full service print shop at IU 20. We've compared our costs to other print shops across the area, and by far we are beating our competitors. But many school districts don't know that they can utilize our IU for printing services, all types of printing services. So if you have any interest in that, please let us know. I actually showed you something there. My daughter was out at DECA this past week through Northampton Area School District, and she said, Dad, she said, I have my posters I need to present. She said, can you pay for them at Staples? I said, no. I said, but if you run the business through the IU, I'll pay for it out of my pocket through the IU because it's going to be cheaper. And she was able to have all those done. And so again, if you have students too that are looking, don't have them go to Staples, have them reach out to us. We can help them and get the pricing down for them 100%.
Yes, I have lots of questions now.
All right.
How do we contact the printing office? Like if we say to our business manager, hey, instead of us going out to bid or whatever, can we just go through you guys and do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can simply email me and I'll connect you with our print shop with Curtis and make those connections.
Is it
100%.
available to our students as well?
Sure, yeah, yeah. So we can get information out there,
Okay.
you know,
Because
so
my kids just
the
like to check
principals and what have you.
like printed signs and everything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So question number two, the driver's ed programs.
Mhm.
We have a very good one. I'm not at all, but how does like a family from Stroudsburg get involved?
So on our website, we have the contact there for the driver's ed.
Okay.
So they would just schedule an appointment with the IU and then make that call, and then they would get you scheduled and work out the details for that.
Okay. Right.
How much time do you need in advance for the students if they wanted to, or sports if they needed to get banners printed or stuff printed? Like, what's the turnaround time for them?
I would say probably a week, between a week and 2 weeks.
Okay.
We can get that done pretty quickly. So I think the hardest part would just be getting it back to you.
Right.
So, but we do have, you know, often we have from our warehouse delivering supplies up to the schools up here that it's just easy enough to have it come up and go to the school.
And even if somebody could bring it to the north office, I can run over and get it.
Yeah.
Somebody can go over to the office.
Yeah, we could send stuff up to the north office too and make a connection
So
there.
teams can have their banners.
Yeah.
printed.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, they're
That's-
expensive.
Yeah, that's a good service.
Right.
Any other questions from? Okay, thank you,
All
Chris. We appreciate it. And I serve on the IU board, and I could just tell you, if you don't know a lot about our IU, the level of professionalism from you and all of your staff, and more importantly, the level of kindness toward the most needy kids is really inspirational. And I would ask everyone here, if you haven't, go on the IU20 website, just search Colonial IU20, and you can see all the amazing things that are going on and all done excellent. So thank you,
Yeah,
Chris. We
yeah,
appreciate
and
that.
you're all, if ever you want to come out and see a great event, come out to our graduation. It's one of the best nights that we have, and to see the kids and the kids put on the show, because they get their some get their diploma, but they at least get a certificate of completion from the IU. And we turn the mic over to the kids, and they take over the show the whole night. So, and they get excited. So
So
you're always
thank you.
welcome to come.
We appreciate all your hard work, and thank
Well,
you.
thank you for all your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move to our superintendent report now.
First, they have made budget presentations very difficult for Mr. Bard of downward trajectories and zero increases. Nobody is setting him up for success tonight. So during our policy committee meeting last month and during our board meeting, there were some discussions about some items. So I figured I would take this time to kind of bring to the board more information about 3 different topics, and then it would be our opportunity to talk it through. So the first topic is cooperative agreement with Notre Dame for athletics. The second would be middle school cheer. That was a concern. And then the third would be the policy 707, which is the use of facilities. So let's start with background about cooperative agreements with PIAA. We have learned a lot in the last month. So it is between 2 schools, not a district. So the cooperative agreement would not be between Notre Dame and East Stroudsburg School District. It would be between Notre Dame and one of the schools. And it must have contiguous borders. So it would only be south, because Notre Dame only borders with south. Everybody with me for there? Each individual sport would need its own agreement. So it's not an agreement for all athletics. It would be each individual sport would need that agreement. It's not one sweeping. Postseason. So there is a cycle every several years for classification for whether we're 5A, 3A. It's for every individual sport, north and south. If we do this out of our cycle of classification, we are not eligible for postseason play.
Nope.
So our cycle starts in 26-27. So if we decide to do this for the 25-26 school year, and that sport makes postseason, we are ineligible for postseason. Classifications, and this is a big one, and I'm learning this. Every sport has a different classification level. So, smaller sports like tennis maybe only have 3. Football has 6. As we go through that classification cycle in 2026-27, it would now include the entire enrollment for Notre Dame. And it would move, we believe, our football team from 5A to 6A would make us
Right.
playing schools like Parkland. It might not move us in every sport, because again, the system is different, but we are almost completely confident that it would change it for football. Considerations for the board. Again, it's only south that we're talking about. It is not north. Open to all Notre Dame students, not taxpayers of East Stroudsburg Area School District. So we cannot be exclusive. The agreement is with the school and all students who enroll in the school. Classification cycle, I would highly recommend that we have to wait to 26-27. Unless you want to be the people saying to our athletes if they don't make postseason.
Thank you.
And again,
Right.
well, it's not like athletics is ever a hot topic.
No,
It could significantly impact our classification for several sports. We truly believe that South football would move to 6A because of the combined enrollments. And we would be adding more athletes, not more sports.
And it would have to be a sport that they don't have at Notre Dame, or could they be at Notre Dame and say, you know what? I'm gonna play basketball at South instead of.
Again,
basketball
the agreement is by sport.
Okay, gotcha.
Transportation, we would only do to and from games. So they would have to get here themselves. That provides kind of a hiccup sometimes, because there are times when we change the timing of what time our sports leave for various reasons.
Mhm.
So if we make that change, that's a heavy lift on the family of the Notre Dame student who's coming to that athletic event.
Mhm.
These are the sports that Notre Dame does not offer. They do not offer fall cheerleading, field hockey, football, or volleyball. Volleyball would be a big one. They do not offer winter competitive cheer, rifle, swim, unified bocce, winter track or wrestling, and they do not offer spring unified track and field. Interesting. Questions for the board to consider. Would we charge families for student athletics, these Notre Dame students? A cooperative agreement, the reason PIAA has cooperative agreements is for very small school districts, for them to have competitive teams and for them to be able to field a team. So if you figure to field a quality football team, you need what, 53 players to have depth? Some schools with only graduating classes of 15, 20, 30 kids can't field a team. So cooperative agreements are intended to be mutually beneficial to both schools. My question to you, and it can be rhetorical, is would this cooperative agreement be mutually beneficial to both schools? And then the biggest question I have is, how do you support our athletes in sports that are cut from the roster for a Notre Dame student to take the team, especially understanding that the Notre Dame student might be from Hackettstown, New Jersey? Okay,
That's fine.
feel free to discuss and then we'll go to middle school cheer.
Well, since I had brought this
And what
up.
we choose.
I would probably say, obviously, it seemed like a simple procedure, but obviously in your, and thank you for all the hard work on that. I would think that it's really a no-brainer.
lot, I know.
That we cannot
I mean,
do
the
that.
point that we had asked about originally was the fact that it was only for East Stroudsburg Area School District students.
So we're not
at
allowed to do
Notre
that.
Dame because, and they're paying taxes, but if we're talking, I mean, to me,
Yeah.
alone, just that one
Yes.
thing, not to
Yeah,
mention
right.
all the other implications to sports and postseason, which we would never wanna hurt our own students, obviously, but just from the perspective that these are
Yeah.
You know, not our students, you know, not our.
Residents.
Residents who are, you know, paying taxes. I think personally, I think it's a.
If we're only our residents, I would be supportive of the fact that, like you said, people, I like for our own
However,
taxpayers,
it is
yes, but
sport
not
by
for everyone.
sport,
It is
correct?
sport by sport.
So there may be some sports here that would not, it would not be a detriment to add additional.
There may be, in talking to Notre Dame's athletic director, and they're not here to speak for themselves, but Notre Dame's athletic director is actually a little concerned about their own athletic programs.
Yeah.
So for instance, female volleyball is the most popular trending sport in the country. And he would think that if we allowed it,
His team.
his field hockey team or girls soccer team might be decimated because of students coming to our programming.
Well, this is information
Mhm.
important for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's,
Thank you for all the research. 'cause
Yeah, thank you.
We had asked the questions of like, what does, you
Sure.
know, obviously, you know, PIAA, you know, what their rules are and obviously.
Very clear.
No, yeah.
and you
I
can
learned
see
so
their
much.
rules are made more for what you said, for a small school to be able to feel, it makes more, like their rules make more sense for that situation than our
Small
situation.
communities to come
Yeah.
together to field a team.
Right.
And even if it did cover all, it wouldn't cover all our students. You know, it covers the students that bordered the Notre Dame, so the North students wouldn't be, people who are from North could not go, be involved.
Well,
No, they
it would
could, but they
actually
can't.
create a loophole
Yeah.
for
Right.
some of our North families could enroll in Notre Dame.
Place out.
That place south.
if they
That's not a
chose.
problem,
Yeah, it would only affect South teams.
It would only affect
Even
our
if they
South
lived
teams.
up north, they would place out.
Correct.
So I would probably say, from what I'm hearing, that we're not interested in pursuing this as a policy.
No.
Okay,
I'm
well,
not.
I'm not even going to move this to a board
No.
action item for
Yeah.
March. Okay.
But thank you
Excellent.
for the input. No, what seemed like could be a very simple procedure, obviously
something
has a
positive
lot
for
more to it than we
students, right?
originally, so.
That's why we ask questions.
That's it.
Absolutely.
So thank you,
Yeah.
but
All right.
thank you.
Moving on to middle school cheer. Currently, it's a club at both intermediate schools.
Mhm.
It's a little different. One's a fan club at Lehman, one is a cheer club at JTL. There were questions about uniforms. So JTL was given the old South varsity uniforms. They want new ones. So they just weren't happy with what they got. So that's why they were fundraising for it. Lehman has never made the request, nor do they want it, because again, one's like a fan club and one is more of a cheer. Current enrollment, JTL has 34 students and it's been around for about 5 years. Lehman has 25 students and it's been around for about 4 years. Considerations for the board. Clubs versus sports meeting frequency. So right now they meet a few times a week and then they go to the games. If it becomes a sport, they would be expected to meet at the regular cadence that sports meets. Competitive versus spirit. So are we saying we're gonna move to competitive cheer or just spirit cheer? Those are two different sports, two different seasons. Would we do fall, winter, or both? The cost, so the uniforms, the base level, the lowest level of a cheer uniform is $100 a student. The coach would be at least $2,900 per school per season. And entrance into competitions if we choose for competitive cheer. And then the cost of transportation, if we decide to send them to away games and meets. Questions? Questions for the board? I'm not sure I have heard from anyone that this was a request. When I asked for information, neither person at Lehman or JTL had said, oh gosh, we're really excited for this to become a sport. Are we trying to solve a problem that does not exist? Can we work to develop a metric to determine what makes a fully funded sport? So I worked in a school district previously that quickly said yes to one sport. They said, yep, come on, we're gonna fully fund you. And then 12 more sports lined up. And then it was like, hold on a second, we don't have the budget to do that. So if we want to explore adding sports to our programs, just like we talked about Schedule B, can we create a system for what makes a sport a sport? What's the level of interest? What is it going to look like? What the cost is? And make sure that we have a system that we're not just discreetly or indiscreetly saying yes or no. So where are we,
Okay. Is this discussion time?
please?
For everyone's reference, I'm the one that brought this up. The reason why I did bring it up is we were asked to approve a fundraising account for JTL cheer. And I said, why should they have to raise money if they're a sport? And I found they weren't a sport. I think some of your numbers, I don't know, because that's not what I was told by some of the parents and some people involved in it.
Those are straight from the advisors.
From the advisor?
Yes, I spoke to both advisors. Those are the
I was
numbers.
told
from-
they did not get any uniform. They were not allowed to use any uniforms because they were not a sport.
They were given the former South uniforms.
Okay, I'll have to, all I know is our South cheerleading program, our South cheer team is doing amazing.
They are.
And the feeder program for that is obviously JTL. And I just brought up the fact that, I thought they were a cheer team, but they're not, there's just so many, and some of your numbers, you say $2,900 for a coach, but what are we paying the advisor of that we're paying probably like 12 or 1,300 for the
I'm not
advisor.
100% sure.
It's about right. It's
I
about
would have to-
1,200 in
Yep.
most cases. So it really would only be about 1,700. And I'm just looking at the implications of the next step, the feeder program into the high school.
Which is the reason, which is the reason the club was started. The club was started
But-
to serve as a feeder program.
Right.
That was the explanation that I received,
Correct.
was that there
just-
was nothing between ESYA and South High School.
It seems like they.
Well, ESYA has their own now too.
No, but
so
what I
does-
was saying is that was the reason it was started. We also have to
So it
consider,
can
is
still
our
be,
coaches available?
It could still be a feeder program. It's just not a team at the
Correct.
middle school level.
It's not a
Right.
full, it's
It's
not a
still feeding
fully,
the program.
so it's not a fully funded
It's
sport.
like having an intramural that
Correct.
feeds sport here.
But you're saying neither Lehman nor JTL are actually sports in the realm of the way we do sports, right?
They're both clubs right
They're
now.
both clubs.
Correct.
Yeah,
Are they allowed to participate in, say, a basketball game and cheer?
Yes.
Mm,
At home games, right? Not away.
Yes. at-
all right.
They do at Lehman. I know that,
Yeah.
the fan club comes to all the, girls and boys home games for
That's-
basketball.
That's literally what they do.
Yeah, that's.
I'm getting mixed reaction. Man, I was getting mixed vibes from people that talk to me, and I will, I wish I would have known you were looking into it more, because I would have loved to. I mean, yeah, I'm fine with it. What your presentation was excellent.
Thank you.
I'm getting mixed reactions from who I talk to, so I'm just.
It would seem that the pressure on parents to have to conform to what we require for a sport would be much more. And now it's more of a fun thing. Now it is a theater type of thing. I mean, that's how I perceive what you said.
For sure.
With all that in mind, and the secondary question, I think that came up and is something I think we should explore, is putting together, some sort of parameters, procedures, requirements for what a sport looks like, things that we should have moving forward. Whether
Correct.
this goes into it or not is something that can, we can look at it another day once we, you get more information, they get more, if they come to us, to ask us directly on those kinds of things. But I don't think it's, we talked about, we have to do stuff with Schedule B, making that clearer, the amount of clubs we have, all those kinds of things. So I think this is a step in the right direction, in terms of us, creating something like that for the future. Because there's always new sports. I mean, volleyball came about, bocce, you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
we've obviously, added things, within the last few years. So I think, making some parameters is a smart idea.
I think it's really important that we set up a system.
Yep.
That way, the next time this is posed to us, we know kind of how to answer yes or no. And everybody knows the rules of the game, right? To use a sports metaphor.
I also think and I think you just said that, if there's an interest, I would like to see either parents or the actual, students come to us and
Well,
kind of present their
In
views.
in
I'd love to
defense
hear
of those
from
people,
them.
if I would have. If I knew we were gonna be talking about, I know you're gonna bring it to us. I didn't know you were bringing this structured. Maybe if we knew about it, I could have talked to the people that talked to me and say, hey, be at tonight's board meeting. If you want to bring up, I didn't know this was gonna be talked
Well,
about.
I mean.
Apologize, I
and
thought I sent it.
They could still do that.
I thought.
I didn't know, I knew we were gonna talk about, it, but I didn't know it was gonna be like this explicit in this
Oh.
organized of a
When I say we're
presentation.
going to talk about things, it's.
I'll know better for next time, Dr. Vitale.
But I think, I think it's to hear from the actual people would be better. I mean,
We're just saying there's rules for sports, whether it be middle school or high school level, there's rules and we have to make sure that we're
Correct.
structured.
Are we ready to move on to another topic?
We are, move on.
Matrix would be a great thing.
Okay.
Yes,
we will
I
work that.
agree with that.
All right, classifications for, now, this one hopefully goes as quickly and easily as the other two. Classifications. I'm being very optimistic. Policy 707, use of facilities. So just to remind everybody, class 1 is East Stroudsburg Area School District school-sponsored organization. Students, clubs, sports, extracurricular. Class 2 is East Stroudsburg Area School District school-related organization, which is our alumni, our boosters, our PTAs, and our PTOs. Class 3 is local nonprofit organizations that have national charters in Monroe or Pike County. ESYA, Community Recreation, Rotary, YMCA.
BYA, yeah.
Class 4 is all other organizations that are either for-profit or not for-profit. Okay, the fee structure. Class 1, the facility fee is waived, the personnel fee is waived. Class 2, the facility fee is waived, the personnel fee is waived if it's midweek. On Saturday, it's 2 events per year waived. Then labor rates would be included of 8 hours total. So if it's 2 events, and it would be 2 4-hour events, no more than 8 hours. Sunday would be Sunday labor rates. All other organizations, so I'm sorry, that should say class 2 and 3. Oh, it does. Okay, good. So class 4 is facility rental fees and personnel based on the work schedule. So class 2 and 3, facility, they pay nothing. Personnel, if it's midweek, they pay nothing. If it's Saturdays, they get 8 hours free. If it's Sundays, they pay the Sunday labor rate. Currently, these are the class 2 and 3 that has used our facilities. Bushkill Outreach, ESYA, and I think it's really, really important to note that ESYA, we treat every sport differently. So if ESYA cheer wants to use it, it's different than ESYA football, which is different than ESYA basketball, which is different than ESYA wrestling. I don't want to say whether we have to or not, but we're trying to use flexibility within these parameters to be kind to our feeder sports. Peak, Special Olympics, the Stallions, that should be another line, YMCA, Varsity Spirit.
BYA uses it too up at North, don't they?
So I pulled the use of facility for this year, and this is who has used it this year.
Okay.
In the 23-24 school year, thank you, Mr. Bard, we had $11,000 worth of personnel fees. And in 24-25, we have so far $8,000 worth of personnel fees. Only Saturday and Sunday, just a reminder. Questions for the board to consider. Does this policy need to be changed? If we change it, will our personnel cost increase? So if we change it and allow latitude, will our facilities be used more often? I don't know the answer to that question. And then the last question for the board is, what does history tell us about policy 707?
May I ask a question in
So
regards to the
there's-
policy?
I'm sorry?
I have a question in regards to the policy. When they do use of facilities, and let's say it's at the North Campus, and it's the winter and say softball wants to do intramurals inside, they're bumped out of Lehman Gym because a use of facilities was already filed earlier in the year for one of these organizations to use it, and they have to look elsewhere within the district to do their softball practices. Is that the case?
I thought it was the opposite.
It is not.
I said, I thought.
So
was
it
the
sounds like you're not asking me a question.
But I'm asking like, what is it, like, but I'm saying that this is what's happening.
Then-
What is the policy? I'm trying to understand the policy.
It should be that our
That's why.
our class one comes first.
Yeah.
Then we need to make
Having
sure-
worked with the policy as a principal, our sports
Yeah.
activities always had first preference
Okay.
over outside.
Well, I will tell you at North, it is not happening that way.
But I also don't know the circumstances.
Nor do I. That's why I'm asking
So
questions. We'd like to look into it.
perhaps we had softball practice planned for Saturday morning and a downpour started. And the event was already planned and they couldn't just move
No,
in.
no, no. I mean, it's intramural time. It's the winter and they practice in the gyms in the winter time.
Okay.
Normally, but they can't get gym time, student athletes up at North because there's class 2 or class 3s that have already done use of facilities for them.
It's pretty solid. I don't like.
For example, I know soccer, since my husband coaches soccer, he had to look for gym time for intramural soccer in the winter, and he is currently today at Resica using the gym.
Okay.
And
let
he
me look
is
into it.
Fridays at Smithfield, which is completely not even North territory, but all the student athletes are driving down to Smithfield on Friday nights for their intramural practice because it's being used by one of the class 2 or 3s.
Okay. All right, so I will look into that.
Okay.
The only thing I would say in terms of the policy and, I mean, from everything that I've experienced, you know, having been in the school district for so long, and obviously I was at South where we followed it that way. I think it's a strong policy. The only thing I would say about the cost increase, if our personnel salaries, you know what I mean, have gone up and we're not kind of, you know, covering those costs by what we're asking for, you know, in the policy, that would be the only thing, at least in my mind, that I would be thinking of changing in terms of the policy, so that at least these other classes that are coming in, you know, are paying the fair share to at least cover what, you know, we're paying out to our personnel. I mean, that would, to me, that's something I think we have to be cognizant of.
Yeah, and it's the rate of the employee. So it's the average. So where we lose money is if a very veteran custodian
Correct.
works it.
Okay.
So we
And so-
have our rates based on the average
Mhm.
of the position.
Gotcha, okay.
Question, the $8,000, $11,000 figures that were referenced as costs, that is our cost that we paid?
That is what we charge.
That's what we charged?
That's what our cost was in personnel fees.
Right.
That we charge those outside organizations.
And did any of those organizations have a problem with that?
One,
Okay, I was just asking,
Yes.
okay, the most recent one.
correct.
We're talking about for the point of reference, we're talking about that recent wrestling tournament, I think, two of them. I would like to voice my concern about this policy. This policy does not have to be changed. That I was involved in the 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007. You know, I was involved in those up in 2000. Yeah, we talked about this. And it's a solid policy. The last time it was referenced and changed was in 2022. And I'm sure it was just a clarification of salaries. It's a solid policy, which you don't even reference a lot of it. There are some things in there that you didn't reference that if the organization is doing something, it only refers to something that's done inside our building more than anything. If they do it outside at our fields, there are literally no costs involved. Our fields are open for people to use. It's just basically when we have a custodial charge that we have to cover. And I've had parents reach out to me, being the policy chair, I've had people, and they said, well, that's not fair. And I said, who's gonna pay for it? The staffing? Someone has, and no matter what, the taxpayer is gonna pay for it's gonna pay, they're gonna pay either way. And if we're only talking a few events, they get their 2 events on a Saturday. And I don't think it's that big. I mean, I support ESYA. Don't get me wrong. I don't think anyone at this table does not support ESYA. It's just a matter of a few events that, I think the other event that came up was that other wrestling tournament that was back that wasn't even submitted in time for us to even approve it. And I think that's what started the whole question and process. So I don't think this policy is firm and solid. I don't think it needs to be changed. And I think we just have to say, I'm sorry, we will help you any way we can, but someone has to pay and
I
that's
agree.
it.
I don't
think if
see
they know
it
ahead of
changing.
time, they can build that into whatever other costs.
I mean,
they
if
have,
they
their
need, right.
fundraising or
Charge an
or
admission
their
fee,
admissions.
a couple dollar
And
admission
they
fee to
just
pay for
have
the
to-
custodial.
They know in advance. If someone springs it on someone and they don't know ahead of time, that's a whole different story, but it's very clear and it's very well spelled out.
Yes.
So
The only
thank you.
comment I want to make is how did the school district determine, for instance, with the wrestling tournament? Why was it necessary to have 2 custodians? Why not 1? I mean, how did we determine? I ended up paying for 2 custodians and 1 security officer, is that fair to say? So why 2 and not 1?
It's based on the length of the event that is scheduled and as well as the anticipated participation. So 1 person doing the work, the director of the supervisor of environmental services did not feel that 1 person was enough. That felt that it needed to be 2, that it was too much work for 1 human being. And we are never bringing in personnel without being strategic and intentional. 1, we don't want to make these people work on Sundays. And 2, we don't want to overcharge. So I think sometimes the individual that we'd spoken to was feeling that we were like intentionally driving up the cost. Why would, there's no benefit of that. It was truly because the event is typically a large event and it spans, I think it was more than just a 6-hour event scheduled. So then you have the hour prep and the hour breakdown at least. And we felt that it was necessary for 2 people. And the policy says that the supervisor of custodians and grounds will make that determination of personnel needed for the event. And I know that ESYA had asked that they could do the cleaning and that they could clean up, but then it becomes a diversion of work. And it becomes a grievance from our support staff union, and we will lose that grievance every single day of the week because it is truly a diversion of work that somebody else is doing their work that is contracted to.
We would have to get the unions okay, basically.
Yeah, but you're not gonna.
Yeah.
do
They're not
it.
gonna- they're not gonna
We
do
should
it.
go to the union.
I would be comfortable sitting
I
down with
wouldn't
the union
either.
and making that ask.
Yeah.
I don't
That's their
think the
job.
grievance has ever been filed for the record.
No, but if it was, we wouldn't be able to support it. We would lose it.
Cause we've never done it, I'm assuming, right?
It's also a matter of like keys and access to air, knowing where things are. I mean, I know from South, there's 500 closets with 500 keys, and how do you find the
It's also
the
about
soap and this and the other things you would need?
insurance and liability and
Correct.
things like that
Right.
too.
So would we like this to become a board action item or for policy committee to go back and review this again next month? Or are we comfortable staying with where we are with this policy?
I can't speak on behalf of the policy committee or the rest of the board, but I think we should just leave it at this. I'm
good as
comfortable.
is.
I'm comfortable with it.
I
Okay.
agree with you.
Anyone?
I'm good.
Thank you, everybody.
So that was.
Thank you for another detailed report.
Mr. Carcutt, I tried. Thank you.
Glitching use of facility.
No, we've moved on.
Okay.
I share my screen.
I was just gonna say, like, what about like outdoor facilities, like the trouts and
different.
tennis courts and stuff like
different.
that? Like, they're open to the public.
Are they?
Yeah.
It's different. Outdoor events are, it's a different class.
It's just open to the public to use the track, for example.
No, it's not just open to the public.
Right.
Why is it not?
So I can't
Taxpayer.
Go run, right, if I want to.
I don't-
We started to have this. before.
We had this conversation.
Oh, that's a
I
whole
thought
nother
we-
policy.
I thought
Hold
we
on.
agreed-
I'm not 100% sure if
I
our
thought we
track
agreed-
and our tennis courts are open 24 hours a day.
They're not.
They're
They're not.
I mean,
It's supposed to be open 20, but we agreed.
is there a policy on
They've
that?
never been like, they've never been.
It's never been that what.
They've
I've
never
here
been
for
as long
11
as
years,
I've
they've
ever
never
known.
been.
Seems like that might go on that list that was very
Yeah,
short, and now it's going to be a little longer.
Right.
One more meeting, Debbie.
Another meeting.
Another meeting. All right, all right.
I would add, if they're open 24 hours, the other concern, who's going to be sure that they're not being abused?
Correct.
And rip
safety
apart and
concerns.
everything else, just they're
Not
expensive.
open.
So
Correct.
I think it sounds nice that they should be open 24/7, so you can run at 3 in the morning, but.
I think
I
it's easier.
wasn't saying 24.
I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, like, keeping them open, then someone has to monitor them, because if life were perfect, no one would hurt them, but.
That concludes my presentation. Thank you, everybody, for good discussion.
Okay,
All right,
now we go to our committee report.
and it is 8:20.
No,
No,
he's gonna be last,
yeah,
making Peter go last.
we're making him sweat a little.
Yeah.
Okay, Monroe Career and Technical. Jason.
Easy. We're on this.
All right. On February 3rd, 2025, MCTI's JOC met to discuss the following items.
No, you're okay.
Good.
Yeah, no,
All right, finances, curriculum, instruction, student activities, personnel items, and the progress of the conference center. Basically, a couple paragraphs I can omit because Dr. Verga and Ms. Jones mentioned everything about the budget and budget presentation, so I'll just move on. Committee approved payment of invoices and investment information. We also approved change orders, as you heard, for the installation of a gooseneck through the roof of the new addition as opposed through the wall, and additional underpinning to the addition. We approved the Colonial IU for RWAN, internet and DDoS monthly cost improvements. And a general agreement with Pentella Data for broadband internet. The committee approved 2 field trips, both in March, one to Kenneth Square for the Green Careers Exploration Day and Longwood Gardens, and the other to the Lancaster, Pennsylvania for the HOSA State Leadership Conference at the Wyndham Resort and Conference Center. We also approved a field trip in June to France and Italy for the EF Tours Sustainability Farming and Business and Hospitality Industry. From our understanding, when during our JOC, they've been fundraising all year, these students in these programs all year in order to have this trip. We all did volunteer to be chaperones. The following personnel items were discussed and approved: appointments for regular and substitutes for the 24-25 year with a change in rates for the Office of Secretaries. We just hired an ACE instructor for small engine repair. And we signed the CBA with I apologize for all the acronyms. The CBA with the MCTI ESPA, which will be effective July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2028. And lastly, the JOC and the director were presented with a 15-passenger van from the Monroe Career and Technical Foundation. Our next meeting will be held at 7 p.m. on March 3rd.
Thank you, Jason. Colonial IU 20 update is me, and you'll really all will like my report because of a date change. We don't meet till Wednesday, so I have none. I'll report next month. And now we're up to property and facilities. Wayne?
Okay, property and facilities met on Wednesday, February 5th. Items requiring action. We made a motion to recommend a proposal from Smithfield Fire Alarm for $10,296.90. From Keystone Fire and Security that has a 3 to 4 month lead time. We made a motion to recommend a 4th installment for the graduation chairs for the North High School for $8,957. and 30 cents from the event stable. This would represent the last purchase for the graduation chairs. We made a motion to recommend payment of CHA invoices. We made a motion to recommend payment for Rutledge Excavating, $42,078.21. That's for the stormwater Stage 2 project. And we made a motion to recommend approving the change order for Rutledge Excavating for the increase of $22,497.73. I believe that was for the work of digging up additional concrete for that one inlet by the egress of the Lehman Intermediate parking lot. We received a indoor air quality assessment for the entire district from Rob Romagno. And we had a discussion on the north bus garage, and we are currently considering a modular building for the bus driver lounge. We are looking into different designs and size, and that's ongoing. And our next property facilities meeting will be held on March 5th at 5:30 here.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Education Programs and Resources Committee, Al?
The EPR committee met on Thursday, February 6th at 5:30. Mrs. Laurie presented the Be Alliance update, highlighting the various holidays and celebrations for the month of February. This list, along with all the support materials and articles, were emailed to the staff. The coffee chat this month is actually tomorrow. The topic is being the first, the only, or one of the few, the burden and manifestation of multidimensional challenges. Dr. Vitale gave us an update on our dual credit enrollment program. She reviewed the 3 models and discussed how we would like to lean into using the ESASD high school delivery model, which is using our teachers and or a co-teaching model of NCC professors with our teachers to deliver the course material. In the short time between the 2 meetings that we had, kind of all this information came up. NCC contacted us about a grant they received, and hopefully sometime this spring, we will be able to we'll hear that we will be able to offer college courses for 2 pathways next year with no cost to the district. So that would be fabulous. The first pathway is, of course, the education pathway that we have been utilizing, which has been wonderful. And the second pathway will now be allied health. And that's something, we've kind of been talking about. This pathway will introduce our students to many of the health-related careers beyond the traditional doctor and nurse kind of programs. We are very excited to see a continuation of the dual enrollment credit program for our students, and especially, fingers crossed, with no cost to our district for the next 2 years. Amy Polmounter presented an updated proposal on the personal finance course, which will allow our students to meet the career to work and future ready standards. This course will be added to our program of studies. We thank Amy for her continued work on this endeavor. Just a reminder to all of us, board members, the program of studies will be coming up later. And if you notice on there, the courses that were eliminated so that we could add the personal finance course now as freshmen, and then the second part in junior year. So just kind of keep that in mind. And this again was with no cost to the district. Those was one of the things we talked about, at least for now, in terms of staffing, et cetera. Dr. Pipperato presented the change in our program of studies, which you also received a copy of. That was part of all the documents we received. We did have a comprehensive discussion about the program of studies. The EPR committee has recommended the approval of the program of studies for this evening. Therefore, scheduling can continue as it should. Dr. Pipperato and the science department chairpersons, Lori Soskill, Missy Hughes, and DJ Scott presented a first look at the rewrite of our high school science curriculum. The EPR will be discussing that again at the next meeting, and to see where we'll go with it. I want to personally thank the department chairs and all the science teachers for their hard work and dedication to our students and the science program. Dr. Bradley presented the state of the elementary schools report. This is the last of the 3 reports. If you remember, Dr. Piperado did the high school report 2 months ago, and then last month it was the middle school. So this was the last one of for our elementary schools. The report was extremely comprehensive, covering attendance, behavior, classroom performance, and PSSA results in ELA, math, and science. The last piece of information was on transiency and how this may or may not affect the student performance. I thought just this one, it's only a snippet of information, but I thought it was interesting. The data showed that we had 476 students enrolled in 5th grade last year, but only 180 of those students were enrolled in our district for all 6 years. So, you know, when we talk about scores and we talk about comparing, you know, apples to apples, that's not always the case. Particularly when we get into the high school, obviously, and we really look at Keystone data. And just as, you know, as we know, the amount of students we have coming, the amount of students we have in the beginning of the year and the end of the year tend to be about the same, but who they are is very different. And so that, you know, creates a challenge, obviously, for our educators, our professional staff. And they do a great job, and our scores, you know, are on the rise, particularly since COVID, you know, so we're really very proud of all of our teachers and everything they do for our students. And again, as I thank Dr. Piperado, I would also like to thank Dr. Bradley for her comprehensive report. And then lastly, Dr. Bradley did give a shout out to her reading department for their professionalism, diligence, and dedication in moving from DIBELS testing, which those of us who've been around forever, you know, was, you know, the K-1-2, and it was very task oriented and, you know, taking your time and so forth. But anyway, moving to a cadence through an all digital approach. So that's a, you know, a big change. In addition to the program of studies, the EPR committee has moved forward the recommendation to purchase Super Kids Reading Program in the amount of $93,872. This is a kind of a transition program that is needed because the provider actually changed materials kind of midway through our 6 years. But it is funded through the 24-25 curriculum and instruction budget. The last thing I do want to just mention to everyone, because this will be up later as well, we had the last of the math courses curriculum to be approved this evening, and it's the college prep CP statistics. The one that was attached for the agenda, this is for the public as well, was the incorrect one. That was our first read. So everyone, the board members all received a second copy. Thank you, Dr. Piperado. She put out some extras for those of you in the public and those of you who may be online. It will be changed tomorrow for the updated one. So it'll be there for everyone to note. So I just wanted to let you know that. And then lastly, our next meeting is Thursday, March 6th at 5:30. Both here and on Zoom. And as I say every time, and I will say it again, this is no offense to all the other committees here, but this is the most important committee because it is the work of our students and what we are here for, education. So I invite all of you to be present and attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne, for your service and humility. We appreciate it. And now that unimportant committee, Rebecca, the finance committee.
You saved me the last Monday, right? So we met February 10th. And my update is very short because we had Wayne cover our properties and facilities recommendations and Ann covered our Super Kids reading, but we did discuss the 10-year LERTA, which you'll see on the agenda. And thank you. I see our Middle Smithfield folks over there for doing a great presentation to us and helping us understand how LERTA really helps our district. And we also have Cisco network switches upgrade at both high schools, totaling $247,931 from Integra One. And that is all I have. And we have, leading up to, we had the initial presentation from Peter, which you'll hear next.
And then we get to
The second most important committee on the board.
Hey. Okay, thank you.
This next meeting,
Hey, sorry.
everybody
Sorry.
knows, is March 10th. here and via Zoom.
And now a man who needs no introduction, Keith.
Policy, I've waited all night for this. Thank you. It gives me so much time to prepare my report and I still didn't prepare it. Policy met, of course, tonight. And you got to get here early because seats are filling up quickly. We present as, I'm not going to go over the policies that we're approving on tonight's agenda since you already looked at those. But one of the things we talked about tonight was, we talked about, I can't see it. I roll my eye. I'm sorry. No, I got it, Deb. I'm good. I just have to get to that page. We're asking we're moving on for board of review and public review, policy 603, budget preparation, policy 701, facilities planning, policy 703, sanitary management, policy 704, maintenance, policy 708, lending equipment and books, policy 710, use of facilities by staff. My favorite policy, policy 716, integrated pest management.
What?
It's really exciting policy. You should read it. It's really good.
Really good times talking today.
It's a really interesting policy. You should read it. It's all about pesticides and it's really good. Those are, and for just for the record to recall, all the 700 policies are reviewing old policies that we haven't looked at in many, many years. And we're very happy to announce that we are on like the last 15 to 20 policies that we have not reviewed yet. So the policy committee will be meeting a lot less, and you will have to hear less from me unless we have other exciting policies to address. But our next policy meeting will be on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. Thank you for your time and your support in these policies.
Okay, thank you, Keith. We appreciate your work. Okay, we have now from our Peter Bart will present on the budget. We waited an hour and a half to allow our investments to grow another hour and a half so we can have some time.
I think that.
So we have 90 minutes more worth of interest.
We are in good shape to start this, so I am ready to present. I'm gonna go to the podium so I can make eye contact with all you people. So, I will go there so you guys can see my beautiful face.
You just don't want to look at the tax code.
I said it.
No one is immune, are they?
Somebody's not getting a Christmas card.
For the whole board, today is the first iteration of the 25-26 budget. I presented the first iteration to the finance committee at the finance committee 2 weeks ago. So I want to start by, I don't know why this isn't working. It should be. So in any event, I want to start by going over the market values and assessments for 25-26. The most important thing to note here is the decline in the values for Monroe County. We're seeing a decline of $12 million or a little under $13 million for Monroe County and an increase of $415,000 for Pike. These numbers are preliminary and could go up or down. The counties certify these numbers in May, so I'll get the certification numbers in May. And these numbers do not include the reductions or possible reductions at the Exploria properties, which the reduction will actually be a $44 million reduction, and the Shawnee property, which the reduction is pending. As we have just, I remember at the last board meeting, the board adopted a specialist to appraise the property, and we're going through assessment appeals at this time. So there was some questions at the last month's meeting about the last year's budget and the deficit that was approved. So what I have on the screen here is these are the board minutes I took from the June 17th board meeting. And this is the minutes that were dictated that I spoke of at that board meeting. And this is the deficit that I presented, the $17.4 million deficit that I spoke to you about before the board voted on the budget. If you look, I did speak of the $17.4 million deficit. The reason we got to it was an increase of the variance was increased from the previous month. There was an increase of 9 special education teachers due to an increased enrollment. There was 4 other positions that were added. And right below that is the budget adoption where the board voted. The board voted 8-1. Mr. Roner was the sole dissenting vote. I wanted to present that because there was some questions at the last board meeting about about the deficit and whatnot. The board deficit from last year's was 8.5 million. So I want to go over the 25-26 revenue summary, and this is going on for this year. The local revenue we're looking at is 107 million. The state revenue is a little over 77 million. The federal revenue will be a little under 5 million at 4.9 million. The other revenue is $50,000, which will be a sale of assets totaling. The total revenue is 189 million, or about you make it 189,260,962, or an increase of 1.5%. What makes up the local revenue is a mix of, well, the primary source is local taxes, which make up approximately $88 million of the base of the 107. But also in that is local earned income taxes, real estate transfer taxes, local earned income taxes, and earnings investments. So what we're seeing in this particular piece and what we saw last year was a steep decline in real estate collection, or the real estate assessments that lead to the number going down. So what the district has saw is normally you collect 91 and historically 91 to $90 million in real estate revenue. This year, in the previous years, now you're down to $88 million, and this year you received $88.2 million. It is not because of collection rates. The collection rates have stayed steady on an average of 90%. So the 90% collection rate is an average between the two counties, between Pike and Monroe County. The average rate's been 90%. But the problem is the lack of assessments or the assessment appeals that have plagued the county. So that is the reason why the state came in and gave us the $5.5 million of the tax equity payment, which is what is buoying the increased state revenue. So the state revenue, what makes up the state revenue is the basic ed subsidy, the special education state subsidy, the reimbursements from the retirement, state reimbursements from the social security reimbursement, transportation subsidy, and a few other minor things that come into that equation as well. The reason that goes up is because, like I said, the tax equity payment is in there, and the governor's budget does include that this year. However, the state's governor's budget does not include a very, very good increase of the basic ed subsidy for East Stroudsburg. It's only about $300,000. The governor's budget also for this year does not include a very good special education increase either. It only has about maybe $100,000 or $150,000 for special education subsidy increase in here. So that's not a very good increase in here. The federal dollars, you see a substantial decrease in here. The substantial decrease stems from the complete phasing out of any ESSER dollars. So that $5 million was just taking out all the ESSER dollars, and the 4.9 million is the basic federal dollars that we get from all of our title money, Title 1, 2, 3, and 4. We also are seeing a decline in the title money that we get. It's a slow decline by about 1 or 1.5% every year. It's been a decline before the election in the fall. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but that's kind of what we've been planning for, and that gets our total revenue piece. Now, before I go on to the expenditure side, does anybody have any questions here about the revenue piece of things?
Yes.
Yes.
So the 77 million from the state, does that include the 9 million that Governor Shapiro said we were receiving? When was there was a month in here where we had state representative, county commissioner, and a representative from the U.S. Senate's office, Rosemary's, where they were
2 months.
asking us to reduce the millage rate. When were we supposed to receive that?
That's
Is that part of the 77?
Yes, that's part of the $77 million. That was the tax equity payment I referred to.
Which is 5.5?
5.5 million, yes.
So we're not getting another 4.
We're not getting another 5.5 on top of that. No, the other money that the Governor Shapiro's budget in 24-25. The increased funding came from the basic ed subsidy, special ed subsidy, and also a revenue to reimburse us for charter school funding on top of the special ed funding, which was another, I believe was another $1 million on top of the special ed funding for the 24-25 school year. That charter school funding does not exist in 25-26. However, there is legislation on the table that perhaps could renovate's a bad word, but I'm trying to find the right
It
word.
would standardize.
Yeah, standard, that's a better
The
word, yeah.
cost of per pupil tuition is to our cyber charter. So it would set one base level, so there was no more variance between school districts.
So it would be.
That's not in here
It's
yet.
not here yet. We don't know. if
It's
it
not
happened.
here yet, and it's just a proposal, and it's been a proposal for many years. So hopefully it gets across the finish line, and that could save us somewhere around $3.5 million in costs, and that would reduce our expense side of things, but on the revenue side of things.
But honestly, we didn't include that because I'm cautiously optimistic that that will come over the finish line. Because cyber charters have a lot of revenue and they really like that revenue and they're able to use that revenue to purchase lobbyists and help their system. So I'm not sure if that kind of standardization of tuition rate will actually come to fruition.
But the nine people you said that we had hired, did we hire or did we not hire them?
You hired the 9 special education people. Yes.
But do we, that's something we talked about that we're not sure we.
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Are we gonna keep those 9?
We have no plans of decreasing our workforce.
That's what I was asking.
Correct.
To Wayne's question, I guess because I'm a little confused. When we were told that we were from the state that we were getting 9 million, and now you're referencing 5.5 million, are those two
No,
separate
it's-
figures, or are the 5.5 part of the 9 million?
The 5.5 is part of the 9 million, so you did get the whole $9 million. It was
Okay.
just broken up into 2 different, or actually
Okay.
3 different buckets.
Well, it's
And
the
all
ready
of
to
that
block
is-
grant
Right,
and the tax equity.
And all of that is reflected in the 77.
right. In this money, it is all reflected
It
into
was my
that.
understanding that some of that money we got last year, we couldn't use until this budget, correct?
So correct, so that is the caveat that has to be mentioned though, with all this, is that the Ready to Learn block grant money, which is the Ready to Learn block grant tax equity payment, the $5.5 million cannot be used for the 24-25 year. It can only be used in the 25-26 year. So the money is actually coming into our bank account by the end of this month, but it cannot be used until the fiscal year begins. So we will recognize that revenue on our books, but we can't actually physically spend it. So that is something that the state did not tell us at the time until regulations came out in September. So we didn't know
So
that.
technically, we would be taking that money off of the 24 million. So right now, suppose it.
No, everything that is everything that I have on this $77 million revenue is included in the funding that we're getting. The deficit I'm going to get to has everything built into that. Now, there are, and I will get to this, we're jumping ahead in the presentation. We're jumping ahead of the presentation, but there are things that I'm looking at from a revenue side of things, from historical perspective type of things that we may be able to enhance revenue a little bit in an effort to shrink down the deficit. So there are things that in past budgets where the deficit increased as we get closer to June, that should never happen in a budget. That's not going to happen this year because I believe we have everything put together well so that we're going to shrink the deficit as we get closer to the June adoption. And that includes looking at revenue enhancement, including what I mean by revenue enhancement is not tax increases necessarily, but also looking at historical projections and not being as conservative on the side of things where, like in last year's audit, we came over $3 million in revenue. Maybe looking at putting that into the budget a little bit so the deficit's a little bit smaller this time.
And looking because we have to be a little more, we have to get that a little bit more strained out or a little more tightened up a little bit on the revenue side.
Thank you.
So that's when I say revenue enhancement, it's not always tax increases. It's also looking at what the historical trends are in the revenue piece. And that's what I'm looking at now for the March presentation as well, when we're going forward with that.
The 5.5 million you say, is that gonna be revenue for this year or for next year?
It's going to be recognized as this year, but we can't spend it until next year.
So it's gonna be, so the money's gonna come in this year?
Yes, it's very confusing.
So-
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people
But
either.
It's also gonna throw our numbers off here.
It's not going to be, it's going to show up as a revenue for this year, even though that we can't particularly spend it.
And
So
we anticipate the same amount.
yeah, so we're
next
gonna,
year.
right, and we're gonna get the
Okay.
same exact amount next year too. So it's kind of like a.
Well, you just said it was a 1-year thing.
No, it's not. It wasn't a 1-year thing. The charter school reimbursement was a 1-year thing.
In 2 separate ones.
Yeah, the ready to learn, the 5.5
To me, it
tax
sounded
equity
like you
base.
said they were
Yeah, the
the same.
$5.5 million is actually in the budget for next year. We're gonna get it
That's-
next year. And the state did say to us that we expect to have it every single year moving forward.
Thank you.
Yes.
Until they.
So let's look at the general fund revenue as a pie chart here. 57% of it comes, the pie is generated by the local sources, which is what the board can control. 41% comes from the state and 3% come from from the federal. So basically, the board can control 50% of what the board or what you guys can control. And that's really, it really should be flipped around where 57% come from the state and 41% come from the local, but this is the reality of what you guys are generating and what you guys, what the reality of the school district funding is. When you look at the 25-26 budget summary, the 189 is the revenue, 213 is the expenditure with a projected deficit of 24,459,677. The general fund balance is 50,400,000 or 50,400,000. The assigned to balance the 24-25 budget is 17,413,000. However, we are trending in a way that we believe we're going to end up between a $6 and $8 million deficit for 24-25. So that will extend the fund balance a longer period of time. The deficit for
Peter,
25.
can I just interrupt you for just make sure they heard what you said? So last year we had we put a $17 million deficit.
Correct.
However, you're saying that your projection would be that $17 million deficit would actually be only
It's between $6 and $8 million, what
only
we're
a $6
trending for
million
right now.
deficit.
That's what we're trending to right now.
Okay, because that's pretty major difference. So that's
Good
giving
thing.
us 10 more million in our.
So,
fund
and that's a mix of the revenue that we brought in from the Plan Con money that we found from getting increased Plan Con money back. The $1.5 million we got back from an error in a transportation report, and also an increased transportation subsidy as well. We're mixing in with that as well.
Good. I mean, that makes
Yeah,
me
so-
feel much more comfortable because we're out of these 17s and we're down to.
Yeah, and that will extend the life of the fund balance as well.
Absolutely, that's.
And the other thing to know is like the previous year, we had an $8 million deficit. We planned an $8 million deficit where we only wound up with the 30.
It was a 48,000. Yeah, it was a $48,000. Yeah, it was basically a balanced budget last year. Yes. So it's through the fiscal constraint of my office, through you guys and doing that type of thing that we don't spend every dollar that we budget. But at the same time, these numbers are getting bigger and bigger. And the realistic thing is that, before it was an $8 million deficit, that was a $48,000 end result deficit. Of $17 million deficit might be a $6 and $8 million deficit. So it's important that the board starts taking action before the $50 million is gone. Now, the ending fund balance I have projected here is $8.5 million. And also, it's also important to note, the board also has $15 million in a capital reserve. So the total fund balance that the district has altogether is $23 million because the capital reserve is restricted for capital projects across the district. But it is important to note that there are restrictions for the $15 million. Now, before I go on, I would like to ask and stop here before we get too deep into the moving forward. If the board members have any questions before we go on from that perspective.
Yes, just to go follow up what I said before.
Yes.
So the ending general fund balance of $8 million, and we don't have crystal balls, but if that 11 million that we didn't spend gets thrown back in there for this year. We actually are close to 20 million in our.
Correct.
In our.
Plus the 15,
Plus
so
the
you're
15.
35.
But you
Yeah.
really don't, because you can't.
Can't
That's
Well, I
a
understand,
earmark.
yeah. I
Yeah,
get
the
that.
15 would be the
Spend
capital,
anything,
I
but
get
it-
that,
yeah,
I know that.
right, right.
But
Yeah.
because again,
Yeah.
20 million sounds a lot nicer than 8, so. okay.
Right, I'm just preparing the board and the public for, yeah.
I'm not disagreeing.
Absolutely,
I just wanna
absolutely,
make
yes,
sure-
you're absolutely correct.
I want to make myself feel better.
I
Okay.
said-
Yes,
And the public to hear.
And the public to
Facts.
hear that too.
yes.
So looking back on the previous slides, the deficit you're estimating of 24 million for this year
Correct.
does not include, if I heard you correctly, the golf course, how that ever reassesses, as well as the Exploria loss of taxes as well, or is that budgeted into that 24 million?
I've already actually accounted for the Exploria and the reduced revenue in the
But not the
taxes.
golf course.
Not the golf course yet, because I don't know where it's gonna land, but I've already, because I'm conservatively planning for the reduced assessment values in the decline in tax collection in that property.
Most of the declines are commercial properties, obviously not homeowners.
Correct. Correct. So how we're making up for that, so you guys are aware and so the public is aware, we've heard from Dr. Wolfel about how Dr. Waltish at the IU makes up for how the IU didn't have to increase their budget because of investments. The district does their own investing. If you guys look in your budget and your board books, you will see big statements from Pislaf and Pliget. We invest a lot of our fund balance money there, and our interest rates there are in the 4.5% range. That's where all of our money from the state goes into there first, doesn't come into the ESSA bank. All the money goes in there first. That money is invested. We earn investment earnings on that. When I got here, I made sure that we were earning the most amount of money that we could possibly earn on those investments. And we bring in around $2 million to $2.5 million to $3.5 million in extra earnings. That is how we replace some of the money that we are losing in real estate assessments. So when we see that, we rely on that money, we rely on that investment earnings to help float some of these losses in that respect.
Right, but knowing the state of the way that is with interest rates and being that I'm in that industry, past treasury rates aren't gonna predict future treasury rates.
Correct.
And research is showing that those type of rates are not on the up anymore, they're on the level out towards going down. I know bank CD rates have gone down at least 1%. Treasury rates have stayed stable, but they're most likely going to follow that decline as the Fed decides to lower interest rates. Those usually follow down as well with treasury.
So
what do you foresee with that?
So what we do then is we will look at our debt portfolio and see if we can lower our debt service payments by refinancing or recalling some of our bonds and extending our payments out further to see if we can recall and lower some of our debt payments, because our debt payments are at the high end of the scale. So that if the yield curve becomes reversed and the interest and the borrowing becomes cheaper, we may be able to save money on the expense side of the ledger. We have to be able to play both sides of the game. So if you lose money on the investment earnings, we have to go back to cut our debt service payments. Right now, it doesn't make sense for us because our interest rates are lower than what the borrowing rate is right now. But on our current debt portfolio, but I look at this stuff on a daily basis too. So I'm well prepared to weather whatever storm that is. So I think that is primarily what we're looking for in that respect. So whatever happens on that, we might be able to shave another $1 million or $2 million off of our debt portfolio, even if we just extended a year or two, if we needed to in that perspective. So that might save us if we lose investment earnings.
Thank you.
So the next slide is looking at the details of our expenditures. The salaries are $90 million, the benefits $64 million, or a 4.81% increase. The benefits are a 7% increase. The notes for the benefits, I want to point out just the health insurance costs are projected to go up 11%. We've had a few bad years of claims. The professional and technical services are $10 million. That's the IU services for special education. The purchase property services are $2 million, or a 2.42% increase. The other purchases services are $15 million, or a 1.77% increase. That's where you'll see the charter school tuition and the liability insurance, also out of district placements. That's what ODP stands for in this particular area. Also, supplies go to $9 million or 1.1% increase. That includes electricity, water, school supplies. That's not all school supplies, by the way. It's mostly electricity, water, the utilities, all those kind of things in there.
That's a lot of pencils.
Yeah, it's a lot of pencils, yeah. It's a lot of it's a lot of pencils, a lot of Dasani water. Also,
I heard.
I know.
Got that.
He heard me. He heard me because he shook his head. I heard. Also the property went up to 2.5 million or a 1.49% increase. And the other object and debt service is a $19.7 million or a 3.6% increase. That includes the new debt service issued for school buses and the leases that need to be accounted for according to GASB. So that's where like leases for school or for computers and different things of that nature. These categories are going to be tweaked and gone through. My team and I are going through all 10,000 plus line items to ensure that all these are true and tried and booked accordingly. So some of these may go up. The bottom line will not change, but these may change as we go through them. The general fund expenditures by function, this is visualized by a pie chart. The instruction is 123 million. Or actually 124 because it's close enough to 124. The support services 66 million. The operation of non-instructional services 3.8 million, and the other financing uses are 19 million. So if you want to look at this by salary and benefits, 72% for salary and benefits. The other purchases services are 13%. That's a lot of the staff that we buy from the IU. We purchase about $9 million of services from the IU for our special education students. And the other expenses are 10% and the supplies are 4%. So let me get to the budget timeline before I take another round of your questions. In March, what we'll do is Dr. Vitale and I will present another budget options to the board. This will, when I say options, it's going to include forecasting. So it's going to show you what options you guys have moving forward and how the fund balance will look out in the next 3 to 5 years. And what it looks like if revenue enhancements are undertaken by the board. We're also going to continue to fine tune our options. When I mentioned to you guys a little bit earlier when Mrs. Catrillo was asking questions about fine tuning and tweaking our revenue enhancements, because I'm getting some projections in about our earned income taxes and things of that nature that may increase our revenues a little bit to chip away at the deficit a little bit. I can't promise anything, but I'm just looking at ways to increase our revenue organically. We'll do that and provide some options to the board through some forecasting that you guys haven't seen before. In April, we're going to continue to refine and show the forecast models based on the feedback from the stakeholders, from the board and the public and the administration. In May, we'll present the prelim final budget for board consideration and passage. And in June, we'll have the final budget vote in the passage and for passage. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to me, to my extension there, or email me at any time. I'm always open for questions. And if you guys want to set up a meeting or anybody in the public wants to set up a meeting, please reach out to me and I'm available. I can come out, stay in for evening meetings anytime you guys want to go over anything you guys have or want to present feedback or comments or a new way forward. I'm definitely open for that. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please let me know.
Before we unleash with questions, I just want to thank Peter. I have tasked Peter with coming up with the worst case scenario. So I have asked him to be as conservative as we should be and to give us what the worst case is. This is the worst case. Do we believe we're going to have a $24.4 million deficit? No. But school finance is so complicated. We want to be conservative. We'd rather be on the right side of it, but we also don't want to incite fear in the board or in our taxpayers. So we wanted to bring to you just the initial numbers so you know kind of where we're at. Now, what we're going to hear from you tonight, hopefully, is not good enough. Go back, bring us something better. Peter and I are well prepared to do that and to look at, as he said, every line item. I sat with the business office for a considerable amount of time today and said, okay, let me understand all of the hundreds and thousands series, right? So let me understand kind of where we're putting our expenditures and what the revenues are. So we are going to come back with a better model, but we wanted to get something in front of you to know we are looking at deficit. We're not looking at a surplus. How big the deficit is, it probably will never be realized of 24.4 million. But Peter did a really good job putting together the most conservative budget. You never want to be aggressive in your spending because that is not good in June. So before you do firing squad for Pete, thank you, Pete. I appreciate it.
That's fine. I'm prepared for it. It's all good.
Well, actually, I was gonna join you in thanking you because you have a school finance, like you said, is probably one of the few places where you're asked to do really big budgets for our district. And no one else tells you how much you're going to be able to play with. You're at the mercy of the state, you're at the mercy of politicians, you're at the mercy of courts and everything else. So I think you did a tremendous job in managing all those pieces and putting them together. And yes, as Dr. Vitale said, none of us are happy with this and we shouldn't be. We now have to task ourselves at saying, all right, now let's see what we could do to make this better. But I would also say we still have a very healthy fund balance, which we have to be mindful of, but we still have that to fall back on. So, I don't think any of us are leaving here in dire straits. But yes, there's work to be done and we look forward to doing that work with you to come out with a better outcome. But I thank you. I mean, I understand things and I thank you for that.
It's important to remember that 70% of our budget is salaries,
Mhm.
and wages and things like that. So when we look at trying to condense costs, that's really one of the only places that can happen. So we have to really be very mindful on how we approach this and what we're doing.
Pete, can I ask you a question? When you talk about the IU, the expenses for the extra services for IU, are you taking in consideration the transportation costs that we incur to send some of these students to other buildings and properties throughout the counties?
No,
Or are they all in-house?
I was just giving the number of, mental health workers, social workers, things of that nature. I wasn't including
Okay,
the
so-
transportation costs, no.
But transportation costs are.
Built in there, or you're building
Yeah.
it in? Okay. All right. Because one of the things we have to start looking at as a district, I think, is looking to get some of our programs back into our district and look at options. And I know you've talked, I know you're a proponent of that, and I'm excited to hear that. And again, I've repeated this every year when it comes to budgeting on the board in the past, is the state will not do their budget until every school district gives them their budget. So it's like, what can we give them? And I say this crazy every year. How can they expect us to plan for income when we don't know what it's going to be? And I just, call your senator, call your state representative, call the governor's office, all the people online, and let them know that that we have to come up with a budget far ahead. And then another thing, when they give us $5 million, but you can have it, but you can't use it until next year.
Yeah, and part of it, I hope you understand my frustration was I didn't know you couldn't spend it until, when they came out with the rules and regulations, it was like in September. So well after the budget was passed, you know what I mean? And you can't, what are you gonna do with it when it's already put in front of you? I mean, it is what it is at that particular point, but also it's important to rally and be on one page when it comes to when you speak to your senators and legislators. It's very, very important that they push the charter school reform thing across the finish line. So if you guys can call with one voice, if they call and speak to you, and they will, because they want you to lower the millage rate because of the $5.5 million, push back on them and say it's better. It would be much better if you guys came to a consensus and pushed across the charter school reform. That would save us a lot more money than the $5.5 million. And also, don't take the $5.5 million away, by the way. But continue to push across the charter school reform, because that would save the district millions of dollars that we can use. Now, our PD 363, we pay $20,000 in a regular ed and $51,000 for a special ed student when they are going to an out of placement cyber school or charter school. So it's important that they reform that right away for us.
And should other districts pay less than that, correct?
Other districts do pay less. It's based on our budget and our expenses.
Or per pupil expenditure outside of debt service, correct?
Yes, it's outside of debt service and outside, and they also give a little bit of a allotment away from our ready to learn block grant that is instructionally based, not the tax equity.
Correct.
Right.
Which is why one standard rate helps.
Correct.
Right.
It helps.
One standard rate
us.
across the board that they're.
It
trying
helps
to-
us. It does not help other districts.
It's okay.
So across the state, though, you can have school boards, some school boards are going to be competing
This,
against.
and this has been going on for 30 years. You know, there are districts that get tens of thousands of dollars more for their students than we do. We're both educating the same way. And it all depends on what part of the state you're in and who your representative is. It's politics.
So, and really what we pay for cyber charter schools to people to go to cyber charter school could almost wipe out our.
And look at our budget for our own side.
Without
school.
having to pay that money,
So
we
we
wouldn't even
are
have
going to
we wouldn't have one.
Our administrative team is going to do an active campaign.
Get them back in our.
Starting
cyber.
this summer to get them back.
Yep.
To start with, our our own internal charter school doesn't service K-2. It starts at 3rd grade. Well, if you go to a cyber charter school K-2, you're not going to change that program in 3rd grade. So we want to open it up to K-2 students. Is it the best model that we agree? Not for our primary students, but at least they're ours and we can capture them and we can offer them our highest level of service. So we want to broaden the scope of the program so that they're with us their entire time. Because when you're with a program for 3 years and you love it, you're not going to change in 3rd grade. So we want to see if we broaden it, if that helps. And also we're going to actively campaign and speak to them and try to understand why they chose that and how we can earn their trust back or how we can earn them back as our students.
Can we start our cyber charter for K-3 tomorrow? I mean, I wasn't aware that we were missing that gap. I mean, like, it just seems like that needs to be done as soon as possible,
Yes.
right? Yeah. I think it's-
Well, we have
I
to
knew
keep
you-
Maybe next week.
next month. Rich.
Are there any other questions?
I do. I just have a
Okay.
question.
Sure.
She has a few months, Rich.
We have more questions for Peter, so.
I got
Jason.
So a question just.
No,
for
July
my
31.
Curiosity. The vast majority of our budget is salary and benefits. Is PSERS calculated into that?
Yes.
Okay. Roughly, I know you don't have the number in front of you. Roughly, what do we spend a year just on our PSERS contribution?
It's 34% of our salary goes out, but we get reimbursed for roughly 60% of that. So if you could follow that, that's part of the state reimbursement as well.
Right.
So 34% is what the PSERS employer cost is. And then we get reimbursed about 60% of it. It's based on our aid ratio. Yeah.
You said less than 15,000.
15%.
15%.
Wow.
Listen,
I would-
it's economic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you
Sam,
talk-
No, it's quite a bit of our, so yeah, so if you look at if you wanted to do a quick calculation, if somebody gives you a salary and says, hey, I want to pay Pete
Right.
60,000, just times that by 0.34 and that's what you get on that.
Because it's just one of those other things that are, it's something that we can't.
Right.
Things we can't.
Yeah, and they expect it to go in the next 5 years up to around 40%.
gonna say, they keep pushing that up.
They keep-
Right, it's a small, it's not as big as it was in the mid 2000s, but it's still inkling going up to around 40%. They expect it to go to 40% by the end of this decade.
And most private businesses are 6-7% max. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah, the whole difference.
right.
Okay, great. Any other questions for
What's
Peter?
purchase property services on page 6, I think it is?
The purchase property services would be anything that we buy, basically what it states, it's the 400 object code, so it would be things like utilities like garbage hauling. That's not all garbage hauling, believe me, we're not paying $2 million to haul garbage. But it's like, it's things in the 400 objects, so it would be things that we contract out our services for that we have to purchase that we don't do on our own.
Like snow.
Snow removing, different things of that nature would be all those different things in that object
Okay.
code. I can give you the list of
No,
them if
no,
I have
I
the.
guess I'm thinking Property, not like services, because you think property, I think, oh.
No, it's like extermination service, like it's integrated.
Outside.
Integrated pest.
I was only integrated pest management.
I know, I had on the tip of my tongue. That's why I took my glasses off and everything. I had the tip of my tongue. It's, pest service, it's the things in the 400 object series if you had a chart of accounting.
Where are we buying this at?
Yeah.
You said buses later.
Pest management's very expensive, Rebecca.
Okay, anything else for Peter?
That's because I'm the biggest. pest.
Thank you very much,
Then
Peter.
thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
Yep,
Peter.
thank you, guys.
And we are going to move on to public participation. Thank you for hanging in there with, normally we don't have this many reports. However, this time of year, planning for next year, we begin having a lot of reports. So thank everybody for hanging in there with us tonight. Reminder for any public participation is limited to comments on this agenda by residents and taxpayers of the school district and is limited to 3 minutes, and your timer's up there just so you can keep track of your time. So at this point, anyone, Pete, I do have someone who did sign up in advance. Peter, thank you. When you come up, just please identify yourself as you arrive there.
From one Peter to the next. Peter Jackson, Township, Middle Smithfield Township taxpayer. Good evening, Madam Superintendent, the board directors. May it please the board. I'm here this evening to address category 12 new business personnel, F308 termination of employee number 9254. I had an opportunity to send an email earlier to you all. I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to review the email. It's Pennsylvania Department of Education guidance on recent Commonwealth Court rulings concerning constitutionality and how terminations are occurring based on individuals that have to file form PDE 6004 for arrest, conviction, or arraignment. So I just wanted to go over a few facts on this particular 9254 employee. The initial charge, and I'm speaking to the 3-page report from the Pennsylvania Department of Education. The initial charge came in January 1st, 2021. A formal charge, I'm sorry, the initial alleged incident date was January 1st, 2021. Formal charges were filed in March of 2023. Trial was completed June of 2024. Had an opportunity in August of 2024 to meet with our Human Resources Department, Kathy Warlicks-Williams, a building representative from the union, Miriam Geo of the union president, 9254, all met and spoke about the value that 9254 brought to the table and how employment would be continued in spite of the conviction in June of 2024. Now, what I guess puzzles me is what has changed since August to today, where employment continued for 9254. The only thing I can see is the rehabilitation portion, which in those forms, if you look from PDE, it in fact is a positive that there has been rehabilitation rendered for the crimes committed. This is ongoing litigation. There is appeals in process. I asked the board simply to, if it would allow due process to take its course before it takes final action on termination on 9254. And I'm here for cross-examination. I can answer any questions as much as I can to the extent that it doesn't compromise future litigation.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. As you probably are aware, we cannot comment on personnel issues or or anything like that in public. That's would be against our policies, but we did hear what you had to say.
I appreciate it. I'm welcome to meet at any time to discuss any of the facts of matters.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Appreciate it. Any other public participation? Anthony, anyone online?
No.
No, okay. All right, seeing none, then we will go back. I'm sorry. Yes, they fall asleep. Everyone online is falling asleep. Okay, let's continue then with our agenda. We are on number 8, unfinished business. I believe your report covered some of our unfinished business. Anyone else have any unfinished business? Nope. Then let's move on. A motion to adopt or repeal the board policies as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? In new business programs, motion to approve the statistics curriculum in accordance with the recommendation of the Education Programs and Resources Committee. And a reminder, we have the updated one, and anyone from the public, the updated one is either outside or online tomorrow.
Second.
Questions?
I thought it was awesome. I read the whole thing. It was everything
Yeah.
all done.
It's really enlightening to see curriculum being discussed at the board level finally.
Yes.
Are you saying curriculum is the most important thing in a school district?
It's that drink you're telling us.
But policy sets the tone for
It is-
curriculum.
It is very exciting, and Dr. Piparato's here to see any curriculum being talked about. And just thank you to everyone involved, especially our math teachers and Dr. Piparato and her committees for that. And it is an awesome course. If you have a chance to look at it, what we're teaching and offering in statistics, even at the CP level, which is not necessarily our highest level, but still gives it a really intense course for our students. So that's a great thing. I'm sorry, I'm gabbing here. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yes. A motion to approve the program of studies for the 25-26 school year in accordance with the recommendation of the Education Programs and Resource Committee.
Second.
Any questions?
I'm just glad we're reviewing it and actually kind of putting our arms around it and hearing about it at EPR, because it's really enlightening to actually hear about programs that we're offering.
It's also enlightening to see all the programs we have. I mean, we have massive programs compared to when I was, let's put it that way.
Yes, if any,
We've had larger buildings over time too, George.
I understand.
A lot more rooms in the building.
Come on.
Oh, my God.
What we offer our students is
Love
truly
you, George.
amazing and such a variety. You heard the MCTI, that aspect, through statistics, through calculus, through, all through work trades.
So the creative writing.
Creative
magazine that
writing,
Came out of 2
film
classes.
study. I mean, there were just so many things that our kids are, they have great programs. So I believe we did the first and second.
And then
I'm talking, so.
anything can go down any career path they want.
Yes, any career path. So we have more work to do on it. We will be doing that work on it. So I'm assuming we have the first and second. All in favor? Opposed? I must be deleted. That's why I'm gabbing so much. I'm sorry. Motion to authorize the field trips as listed.
So moved. Second.
Questions?
Yeah, does this include the Great Adventure trip that we discussed?
It does not, because they had not filled out the paperwork. I just asked for permission to advertise for that, and it will be on March's agenda. Thank you.
Good.
Yep.
And I just it's exciting to see the STEM students going to states, because I had the opportunity to attend our Battle in the Berg JTL last week. And it's neat to see our STEM students excel. We talk about sports so much, but I'm going to keep pushing the other programs. And it's an amazing program.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Pupils, motion to approve the recommendation to modify expulsion requirement, agreed upon expulsion, waiver of school board hearing, and release agreement for the case listed in substantially the same form as presented at this meeting.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Move on now to personnel. Motion to approve the agreement with Mr. Andrew Snyder as presented as Assistant Superintendent for District Programs of the East Stroudsburg Area School District.
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
He's here, stand up, introduce yourself.
Wait.
Wait, all stay standing, all in favor? Okay, good. There's always that sense. Welcome, Andrew, and we are just so excited to have yet another member of our team added. And we are moving forward, and please understand how excited we are to have you and get this place continually going full speed ahead. So welcome.
Thank you all very much. I look forward to starting relatively shortly. And we're gonna get work.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
being here tonight. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on. A motion to rescind the statement of charges for employee 10499, which was approved on the January 27th, 2025 board agenda.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion to approve the separation agreement for employee 10499.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yep. Motion to approve the workers' compensation settlement with employee ID 11003.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the agreement with PSBA as presented for a compensation analysis and market assessment concerning the district's support staff.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the termination of employee 9254, having concluded that the charges are sufficient to support termination.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the following memorandum of understanding with about MTSS. It's listed below.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right. Motion to approve the employment actions listed in accordance with the associated applicable policies, procedures, and contractual agreements.
Second.
Questions?
Do we do this every year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to abstain for. I'm not, I gotta find the,
We didn't get to.
Someone there.
we didn't get there yet?
Not yet, nope, we're still on the application of payment for the acquired state by.
No.
No.
Not a conflict for.
Were we on 308?
Oh, the employment, yes,
Huh?
employment contract,
308
yes.
That's the MTS, MOU for
Okay,
MTSS.
at 308, I would.
Right, hold on, where are we?
We're on the
Let's-
agenda.
308.
Okay, Wayne, you are, I know where you are.
These are all the hirings and
Yeah.
resignations and things we're working on right now.
It's
I
page-
don't know what section. it
I'll
is.
tell you in a sec,
thought
I got
had
it.
it tagged. 17 and 19, I think.
Okay, that's it. So we have that. So noted, the extension.
Sorry, section 13.
Okay, we're good. We have that noted. All right, then in that case, all in favor?
Yeah.
I'm opposed. And then the abstention on that one section.
I just wanted to, Mr. President, if you don't mind, I just wanted to thank Diane Kelly, my controller. She's retiring as of the first week of July. She's been instrumental for helping me adjust here in East Stroudsburg, and she's retiring. I wanted to thank her for many years of service here. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah,
second
for
that.
those of us who had the opportunity to work with Diane over the years, Diane is
Thank you.
terrible loss to the district. She is a wonderful worker. So we will miss her. I'll miss getting emails from her.
I did say this at our last meeting, because of the work we were doing, but, since she's here in person, I will say it again.
I did too.
A thank you to Dr. Piparato for all her work, on the secondary level, so as director of curriculum.
Right, she's.
Thank you.
Too, I forgot.
Congratulations.
All the
You're
best.
fine, yeah.
Yep.
Had
Yes.
You're retiring, I'm like, oh, she's staying.
I would have to talk. I work personally as a principal with Dr. Piparato, and not only is she knowledgeable, but is just a joy to work with. During COVID, I tell my favorite story. During COVID, Heather, Amy, is the assistant principal at South, and myself, we had some downtime because we had no students. So we actually, with my other assistant, who's now the principal of Pleasant Valley High School, we had a cookie bake-off at a cookie contest for Christmas. And the four of us spent the afternoon baking cookies and kind of testing each other's recipes. So that's the kind of person Heather is. And none of our parties will be as beautifully decorated as Heather's. So in addition to her curriculum knowledge, she has that other expertise that really will be missed. And thank you so much for all our great times. I appreciate that. Motion to, did we vote on that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did. We did.
We did, sorry. Motion to direct the administration to submit Form PDE 2098 to the Pennsylvania Department of Education for appropriations payable in lieu of taxes under the provisions of Section 604 of the Public School Code of 1949.
So moved.
Okay. Questions, comments? Okay. Remember the Pennsylvania School Code of 1949? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the 10-year LERTA extension with Middle Smithfield Township in accordance with the recommendation from the Finance Committee meeting.
So moved.
Wow. Did we get that one? Okay. Any questions?
Do we really have to do this? No. I'm joking.
After they sat here so nice.
Thank you for being present. We do appreciate that. Thank you.
Can I say something real quick? I want to thank the,
No.
hold on. I want to thank the Middle Smithfield supervisors for doing this. Although it will show as we're giving up revenue, we're gaining long-term revenue. And what the taxpayers don't, everyone blames the school district for taxes. It's a joint venture between everybody, and without good supervisors planning good business districts and supporting them, we don't get tax dollars coming in from bigger box stores and things going up, and I appreciate you all doing that. Although it is a loss of revenue, it's a gain in the long run, and I support it. So
And we do appreciate you being here this evening very much. So thank you. Okay, now we're going to vote.
Well,
Because he's sitting next to me now.
I don't think you were sitting down like 5 minutes.
So
Let us vote and then vote on.
Yeah.
all in favor?
I abstain. No,
Okay, good.
Thank you for coming out.
Covering for last time.
And thank you for
I've
providing this
learned over the
opportunity
years.
to businesses in our community.
We
Truly, thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Special thank you.
Now open up some good stores with that.
Motion to award items A through C in accordance with the recommendations from the Finance Committee, Education Programs and Resources, and the Properties and Facilities Committee. A, B, and C are listed there.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion to approve items A and B in accordance with the recommendations from the Finance Committee and the Property and Facilities Committee. A and B are listed there.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? I just have a comment just in case anyone's wondering, because I've wondered and I got my answer today. It says high school north graduation chairs. Last year, high school south graduation chairs were purchased. So now north and south both have chairs. Every year we used to rent them, and obviously in the long run, it's better to have them than to keep renting. Also got very confusing transferring the rental chairs back and forth. But in case you don't see south, that's why it's not there. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the payment of bills and unaudited treasurer's report listed in this agenda for the 24-25 fiscal year.
We need to back out. We're gonna table something that from finance, it should be in there.
Okay.
Isn't that under new business with finance?
That's at the end.
This is for the payment of.
No, it's not yet.
Okay, I'll make sure I.
It's at the end.
Wait, it's not
Okay,
yet.
good. That'd be the next one. Okay.
It's-
So in accordance with section 687 of the Public School Code, recent directives of the Department of Education, interpretations made by the Auditor General.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Motion to approve the payment of the following invoices and applications for payment for services rendered.
Motion. Second.
Okay, Rebecca, is this something?
Yes, we need to back out item 818 for the.
You don't know that.
Not yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my fault. I'm sorry.
No,
No,
Mike,
we
still good.
We're still good.
Come on, Rebecca.
I'll keep going. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion to approve the request to renew the
Your bills,
already
Wayne.
established student activity funds listed.
So moved. Second.
Okay, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to accept the grant from the Pocono Mountains United Way for the East Stroudsburg Area School District Summer Steamer Program in the total amount of $1,700 via donations as follows, listed below: PP&L, UGI, and Weiss Market.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Wait,
Aye.
Wait,
Oh, never.
abstentions, Rich and Debbie.
Wait.
I abstain.
Say it.
I'm abstaining
Okay,
along with Debbie.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Two abstentions, Debbie and Rich. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion to approve the contracts listed for their specific services, rates, and effective dates, subject to the review and recommendations of the solicitor and approval of the administration regarding the items and conditions of any final contract other than price and cost.
Second.
Questions?
818, is that what we're on
No,
now?
not yet.
All in favor?
Rebecca, I'm on it, Rebecca. Don't worry, I'm on it.
No opposed. Motion to approve a 5-year beverage agreement with our product.
Hold on, Mr. President.
Here it is.
With
Motion.
estimated revenue of $128,427
Make sure we get it.
in accordance with the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
So moved.
I like, second, and I like to make a motion to table this
Thank you.
Needs more
for some more,
clarification.
more research. There's some numbers that I've questioned, other board members have questioned, and there's some legal terms that we have to look at further to see if this is right for our district. So I asked it be tabled until, oh, I'm sorry, I really shouldn't have done it until it was a.
So we have to make a motion
Motion
to
to
make a
table
motion to table.
Are you motioning to table?
You do.
Make a motion.
We have a motion to table.
You have a motion to
And
table.
a second.
I second the motion.
Seconds the motion to table.
There you go.
We're voting on the motion to table. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. New business community, there is none. Enrollment, and we only need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second,
So moved, Becky.
Thank you.
all in favor? Thank you to everyone for staying up with us tonight.
Longer than some of our previous meetings.
Well, stop losing out the judgment. We're going forward.